Hi guys, and welcome to the Isle of Wight Masters Round 6 commentary. As you will probably have noticed, I am on my own, but I will have two guests joining me today, so don't worry. We're going to have a fun stream. It's not just going to be me the whole time. So our first guest will be joining in about 20-25 minutes. This will be Amelia Castellao from the Women in Chess Foundation. And then we will have International Master Lawrence Cooper joining as well, which is really exciting because Lawrence is very knowledgeable about English chess, about a lot of the chess players playing in this competition, and will be able to give some specific insights that I personally don't know about. So I wanted to start by telling you guys just a little bit about where we are in the standings of this tournament, because actually we have quite a lot of players taking buys today. So a lot of people that we have been following so far in the tournament are not playing today. So for example, International Master Jovanka Huska is not playing today. She's taking a bye. And so is Grandmaster Keith Arkell, whose game we were following at the end of yesterday's stream. So neither of those players are playing today. And today we have on board one Bobby Cheng, who is the top seed of the tournament, Australian Grandmaster, 2594 rated, currently on 4.5 points. And he is playing against Marcos Collados from Spain, also on 4.5 points, International Master 2459. So this is a nice, exciting board one matchup. And on board two, we have FIDE Master Stanley Barisonei against Grandmaster Sebastian Bogner. So we've been following Swiss Grandmaster Sebastian Bogner for quite a few games, almost all of them, I think. And Stanley is a new person that we haven't been following so far in this tournament. Let me just switch to their camera so you can see what they look like. These guys are head-to-head today. Now, Stanley is a very promising young English player, and he's FIDE Master, but he's very, very strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing on board two, of course. He's on 4.5 points. So he is currently, tied on points with Bobby Cheng and Marcos Collados, who are playing on board one, which is really, really impressive. He is born only in 2009, so very promising young player. And obviously Sebastian Bogner, who is a strong Swiss Grandmaster, as we've seen from his games so far in the tournament. On board three, we will have Ameet Ghasi and Maciej Czopor. So very excited because I know that Czopor is playing on Lawrence Cooper's Foreign CL team. So when he joins later in the stream, he will be able to give us some more insights about this player, which is somebody I don't really know much about. So this will be really, really enlightening. And then we're also going to be following Alexandra Prao, our streamer of the tournament. Today she is playing against a 1900. I will try and get her camera for you guys. I just haven't received it yet, so we'll be able to check in on Alexandra too. I do have a themed jumper which just arrived today. It was supposed to arrive before the tournament ended, but it had to come all the way to France from the UK. So, famously, this is a very long distance. And I mean, when you get things printed to order, it's slow, but that's fine because it's here now and we have it for the rest of it. And look, it even has a chessboard on the back, which is actually pretty cool. A chessboard and chess pieces. I have several chess sweatshirts, but I like this one specifically because the back is very cool. And now I can wear it to my own chess tournaments. So it's nice to wear merch from like one chess tournament to another chess tournament, because then you're showing the people at the chess tournament that you're at that you've played other chess tournaments and that you're actually a very serious chess player. So yes, this is my nice Isle of Wight International Chess Tournament hoodie. What I've provided, if there was a specific chess position on the back, No, I think this is good. This, leaves things open. It doesn't give too much away about, the openings that I like and stuff like this. So, no, I'm happy with the jumper as it is. Speaking of the games we've got going on today, I'm sure we will also take a look at board 4, board 5, and maybe even more. So let's just start with board 1 because it's nice to see the people that we have, and we've got cameras for Bobby Cheng and Marcus Collados. So this is great. We can see them thinking. We currently have a d4, knight f6, c4, e6. This could transpose into a couple of things, but it's going to be Queen's Indian. So basically here, this can be like a Nimzo kind of deal. It can turn into a lot of different things. It can transpose into a Queen's Gambit declined. Basically it's a game where you kind of have to wait until your opponent shows their hand. And so b6, this is going to be Queen's Indian. And actually, I mean, knight to f3 is kind of anti-Nimzo because Nimzo is all about here with the knight, bishop to b4 check or bishop to b4. And so this is a pretty unique opening that we don't see super often anymore. I feel like I don't often see a Queen's Indian defense, but that's fun. I like this. We've had a lot of very different responses to d4 so far in this tournament. We're probably going to get through all of them before the tournament ends. We're going to check them all off the list. So we've had Queen's Indian, we've had King's Indian, we've had Queen's Gambit declined, we've had the Benoni. So we're just missing the Queen's Gambit accepted, which we probably won't see. We're missing a Slav, I suppose. Maybe we'll see a Slav from Yavanka. And I guess maybe a Benko or something. Maybe someone will play the Benko Gambit. And bishop to g2, of course, we're going to fianchetto our bishop after we've played g3. The bishop goes in his nice little house. Bishop to b7, contesting this very strong bishop along the diagonal makes perfect sense. And I can see the appeal of this opening. It's personally an opening I've never played, but you get this nice early c5, which is very necessary in a lot of these d4 positions to just grab some space as black. And if you don't know what you're doing against d4, this is something that I spoke about with Diana yesterday. You can really start to feel suffocated and like you don't have space. So this is why, it's very important to know your openings well. And I don't know why there's these little dots on the screen. We all see that, from this pawn, it's showing, it's not here. Okay, I'm going to refresh. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Sorry, that was bothering me. Let's take a look on board 2. We've got another d4 opening. Okay, so we're going to have lots of d4 games today. And knight f6, c4, and basically the same, exact same position as we had on board 1, which is very fun. But now instead we have knight to c3 instead of knight to f3. And so this can become a Nimzo, and that's what I was talking about in the board 1 game, is bishop to b4 goes for Nimzo. And basically the Nimzo Indian defense is considered to be the best, most challenging response to d4, but it's also very hard to play. It's very complicated. What's up, chat? How are you all doing today? I know that myself and my co-commentators have not been interacting with the chat as much as usual. And whilst I'm solo today, before my guests join or in between guests, please don't hesitate to ask questions and to interact, because I'll be a bit more interactive. I think when you have a co-commentator or co-host, you really need to focus on the dialogue between the two hosts and not get too distracted based on the chat messages. And also, I know that we do have people watching on site in the auditorium in the Isle of Wight, probably later on in the round. I'm guessing there aren't too many people watching right as the round starts. If you are watching, hello. I hope you've been enjoying the commentary so far during the tournament, and I hope you enjoy the rest as well. So we have this Nimzo Indian, and there's lots of ways to play this. Like there's queen to c2, which is a very classical line, which basically says that you don't want to allow this doubled pawn to happen. So let's say e3, if black really wanted to here, they could play bishop takes. Now this isn't super common. This is like the 5th most popular move. So black isn't really going to double these pawns here right now. But the 2nd most popular move after e3 is queen to c2, and they're like almost on par with how popular they are. Like it's very popular to just say, if you take, I'm going to recapture with the queen. But instead, it seems to be more fashionable now to just play e3 and not put the queen on c2. So bishop to d2, now we can recapture this way potentially, and d5 striking back in the middle. And it's very normal for black to play d5 and c5 in these Nimzo Indian positions. You really do have to strike back in the center, because you can't allow your opponent ever to take control of the whole center. This is against the spirit of chess to allow your opponent to have such space uncontested. So knight to f3, normal developing move, and b6. Again, ready to put this bishop potentially on the long diagonal, maybe also going for a c5 at some point. We have c takes d, e takes d, and now bishop to d3 and bishop to d6. So this is fun, right? Because we played bishop to b5, you know, saying, oh, I'm going to pin your knight, I'm going to threaten to take your knight. And then actually we're just going to bring the bishop right back. And one thing that we teach beginners in chess is you don't want to move the same piece twice in the opening. And this is a rule that you'll see grandmasters breaking all the time, right? Because Sebastian, he hasn't developed his knight, he hasn't developed his bishop, his rook's still in the corner, his queen, most of his pieces are still on their starting squares. But when you learn theory, very often in chess, theory doesn't follow the rules that we teach beginners. And there are very specific, concrete reasons behind moves made in theory, and they're studied now these days by supercomputers. But here actually there's a lot of different moves you can play, and bishop to d6 is only the 2nd most popular. I mean, more natural would simply be bishop to b7, because we have prepared this space for the bishop. This is called a fianchetto. If you're not familiar with this idea, if you're new to chess, basically you create this little house for your bishop, and your bishop is going to be a sniper and really powerful, looking all the way over at the other end of the board. So if we create this weakness on the light squares, we have to really fill it in with the bishop. Usually it makes sense. We want to control those squares. And every time we push a pawn, it creates a weakness, essentially, which sounds very negative. Sounds like a very negative way of thinking about it. We do have to push pawns, right? We have to push pawns to develop our pieces. We have to push pawns to gain space. But every time you push a pawn, you are no longer protecting certain squares. So a6 and c6 used to be protected by the b pawn. Playing b6 no longer protects these squares. So it very much makes sense to put the bishop on b7. So it would be very natural to develop the bishop here, but I suppose there is not a major rush, and so bishop to d6 is played instead. And now there's lots of options for white, and white has played rook to c1, which I guess I was going to say probably castles seems to be the most, natural automatic move that we would look at is castling. Especially because black has castled as well, so if they're both castling the same sides, there shouldn't be a huge amount of risk. But rook c1, okay, we're delaying castling by another move, which is not a big deal. And now we have things like bishop to b7 to consider. We also have moves like c5. c5 is very well supported by the b pawn and by this bishop on d6, so we can go for this push. And I think that this is a pretty important move, like I said, to like liberate your position as black and to gain space. In a lot of these d4 openings, at some point white tries to play e4. Like in almost every d4 c4 opening, white is at some point planning to push this e4 pawn. And so if you let them overrun the center, then you're going to be having a bad time. So you really have to fight back. So c5 is going to be a very natural move, and it is played very quickly. Actually, very interestingly, white spent a whole 12 minutes on rook to c1. And so Stanley here either trying to just remember his prep, or it's possible that bishop to d6 was not in his prep because bishop to b7 is more popular of a move. Like I'm sure he's also familiar with bishop to d6. But he did spend some time here. So that's actually quite interesting that he spent some time, played rook c1 instead of spending time or just playing castles immediately. With c5, and now, I mean, you can either castle, you can play knight to b5 to get a tempo on this bishop. You can play knight to e5 just to, you know, further improve this piece. But I think that castling seems very natural and is probably a good idea. Probably worth mentioning for the beginners or people who are not super familiar with chess that there's not really a threat of c4 here. The reason being is like this is you're closing off this side of the board, and actually as white probably who's going to have more fun on this side, and it is white who has the pawn break here on the e-file because black no longer has an e-pawn. So if white is the one controlling this pawn break, then like what are black's possible pawn breaks? Black's pawn break was c5, and they've just gotten rid of that if they've played c4. c4 is not like a really big deal, even though it gains space. It's probably actually not very good. So let's take a look at board 3 quickly. I'm just gonna double check to see if I've got Alexandra's camera. I think I do have Alexandra's camera. So let me see if I can get that for you. And then we can take a look at Alexandra's game as well, which is exciting. She's had very spicy games, especially yesterday's game was very spicy. Unfortunately, she was on the receiving side of being attacked yesterday, which is not ever fun, but maybe today it will go the other way. So let's go over very quickly to Alexandra, just because we have her camera. It's nice to see. And here she is playing with the black pieces, as we can see. And we have e4, c5. So you have another Sicilian. Alexandra has had a lot of Sicilians from both sides, from the white side and the black side so far in this tournament. Knight f3 and g6, so a dragon, hyper-accelerated dragon. And we saw her play a dragon earlier in the tournament. And this all looks very normal. Personally, I don't play the open Sicilian, but there are a couple of different ways to play against the dragon, and this is called the Maroczy bind. So when you play with c4, basically you create this very powerful clamp on the d5 square because our pawns are both fighting for it, and it essentially makes it quite difficult for black to play a move like d5. And it's quite a positional way to play against the accelerated dragon. And I know a lot of people who enjoy playing like this. They find it very straightforward, and you're not really at a huge risk for white in this position. Of course, bishop to g7 is the most natural move. We have to then protect our knight, which is hit twice. And in developing our bishop to e3, the queen has the chance to attack on b2. Knight to b3 with the tempo on the queen. There's actually a couple of different options here. And you can play knight to b5 as well, which is less common, but it's kind of quirky and a bit fun. I think knight to b3 makes personally a lot more sense, because the knight on b5 can always be kicked away. And now the knight is safely blocking this pawn. The queen has to move back, and then we want to be very careful not to blunder b2, right guys? Blunder b2, blunder the rook. This would be very bad. So queen to d2, we're defending. And this is what I meant earlier when I said that every move in the opening has very, very clear, concrete ideas, right? So especially in these very sharp openings, right? So accelerated dragon, these open Sicilians, they're very sharp. And what does sharp mean about a chess opening? It means that if you don't play the right move, then things could turn sour quite quickly. And it means that you have to be quite careful. So basically, queen d2 might just look like a normal developing move, but of course it does have this very, very clear reasoning of just protecting the b2 pawn. Knight to f6, and this is coming with a tempo on e4, so another very concrete reasoning for this move. And then f3, so f3 protects this pawn and also prevents knight to g4. So why play a move like f3 instead of like bishop d3? And it's really because of this knight g4 idea. So some moves to deal with this threat are better than others. f3 is dual purpose move. And it's very important actually that we don't allow knight to g4, because our bishop is very, very important. And this bishop is extremely strong, so we don't want this knight to capture our dark squared bishop. So d6, because like I said, it's going to be a hard time to get d5 in, and not actually what you want to play here. Bishop to e2. Developing bishop to e6, knight to c3. I really love white's position, actually. I can see why people love to play this Maroczy bind against the accelerated dragon. And maybe this is something that I should learn. Maybe this is something that I should do, because this is actually just a very nice, comfy position for a white, isn't it? You have beautiful pieces and you have lots of space, which who doesn't love space? So, okay, rook c8, and now basically white has essentially completed development, other than the fact that they haven't castled. We are out of book, that's fine, but I think that castles here is a very natural move. You could also continue like a little copycat here and play rook to c1. When there is a semi-open file, we definitely want to put our rooks on it. What does it mean if a file is semi-open? It means that there's only one colored pawn on it. So as you can see, like the A file has two pawns. It has a white pawn and a black pawn. The C file only has a white pawn, so it's semi-open. And an open file is a file with no pawns on it. So it's very simple. And so rook c1 would make a lot of sense to have an x-ray through these pieces, contest this file at some point. It's a very good place for the rook. So this is probably what Alexandra's opponent is thinking about. He's probably wondering, do I want to castle? Do I want to play rook c1? Maybe he's thinking about knight d5, and if he is, then he probably has to calculate like some more things, because it's a jump forwards. But so far, I think Alex should be quite happy. Definitely, she's having a more reasonable game than yesterday's game, where her opponent did just start attacking her immediately. So she should be happier here. And we will have our first guest joining in just a couple of moments. So before that happens, I'll just show you board 3. Because this is a very fun position. It's another Benoni. So another queen's pawn opening, another d4 opening. We have d4, knight f6. So this is the theme. This is the theme of the top 3 boards is d4 knight f6. They all huddled and they had this discussion and agreement that they were all going to play d4 knight f6. No, I'm kidding. This obviously didn't happen, but it's always funny when this happens and you have basically the same things. But of course, these all transpose into very, very different games of chess. So even though the first moves were the same, it doesn't matter. And this is a King's Indian, and we saw a King's Indian on round 2 on our first day of commentary. We talked about how white gets beautiful space and black gets this counterplay on the king side. But this is actually called the 4 pawns attack, where white plays f4 immediately. And this looks great, right? This looks beautiful for white because they have all of this space. All of it. And like instinctively as a chess player, you want a lot of space. But it's actually quite a lot of pawns to look after, right? Quite a lot of pawns to babysit, quite a lot of pawns to make sure that they're not being attacked and they're not ever hanging. And kind of the thing about pushing all of these pawns is like, is your king happy? Like, is your king gonna be safe? And like, yes, if you play this well, your king should totally be safe. But it's definitely a kind of position that you have to enjoy playing. It's not for everybody, and it's not as simple as it looks as just grabbing that much space. So of course, black has to hit back in the center. What we've been talking about so far with these d4 openings, and it's the same for any opening, is you cannot just let your opponent have these 4 pawns as they are, right? If we just did nothing, if we just like put all of our pawns on the 6th rank and did absolutely nothing, we would be miserable because we wouldn't have any space. We wouldn't be fighting for anything. So we have to play a move like c5 and try to grab some space in the center and to contest this and to be disruptive. And so now after d5, we hit back again with e6. So we're attacking the pawn chain. Attacking the pawn chain is really important. And bishop to e2, developing, and then we are castling. So, and my guest is here. Okay, let me just go and get my guest. Hello. Wait, we can't hear you, Amelia. I still don't think we can hear you. We love a guest. We love a guest, especially a guest such as Amelia. No, I still can't hear you. Maybe it's my fault. It could be my fault. Let me take a look. Okay, it's not my fault. Just check your microphone on Google Meets. Okay. Whilst Amelia sorts out her audio, which is totally not a problem, whilst Amelia sorts out her audio, we will just keep on talking about this position. And there we go. I've managed to make your camera more central. Beautiful. That looks good now. We can't hear Amelia. Oh no, she left me. Amelia. Oh. Okay, she left me. Thought for a minute I was in a meet at work when I heard the noise of someone joining. Did that trigger your fight or flight chat? Those of you who use Google Meets for work and you heard the Google Meets noise, because I totally get that could do that. Anyway, it seems that Amelia will be rejoining quickly. You didn't hear the noise. I think a couple of people did hear the noise. I'm at work and it made me panic. I'm very sorry. Okay. No. Okay. And Amelia has rejoined. Can you say something, Amelia? Oh, I'm not hearing you. Not hearing you. There it was again. Yeah, so my audio is definitely working because I'm receiving notification noise through Google Meets, but I'm not hearing your microphone, Amelia. If you just click the microphone button and make sure you've selected the right one, and make sure that when you talk, the little blue bar is going. So whilst you fix that, Amelia, I'm just gonna continue to talk about this position. So we've had short castles, and so White has got their king to safety. And so we received a question from chat. Actual question, I think you missed it. Do you have an overview where you see all the boards at once so you can see how the boards develop and have an idea of where to go next if something interesting happens? That's actually a really, really good idea. And yeah, technically I can just flick back to this page on chess.com, which is the chess.com events page that I can actually send to you guys in the chat so that you can take your own look, if you like, at all of the boards. Because we actually have hundreds of boards, right? We have a lot of live boards here. And the games that we look through on stream are just a very, very tiny percentage. And there's lots of extremely, extremely high level games here and lots of extremely exciting games. And unfortunately, I just don't have the capacity to talk about all like 50 games we have going on here in the master section. You wouldn't be able to get any sense of continuity if we continually flick through all of these boards, which is why we tend to focus just on between like 3 and 5 boards, absolute maximum. And I think for that, it's the best way that you can really follow each game to the fullest. So let's go back to this game because this looked very exciting. So this is the King's Indian turned Benoni. According to chess.com. This is definitely King's Indian, but yes, turned Benoni somehow. And bishop to e2, and we had castles. So this is where we got to. And now this rook to e8 move. So let's talk a little bit about pawn structure and about those 4 pawns. Because we're on move 10, and obviously things look extremely different how they looked here on move 5 when we had all of these beautiful 4 pawns in a row. And the fact is that you just can't keep these 4 pawns. So when you're choosing your openings, you have to really acknowledge the fact that things are going to change and you're going to have to deal with how they look later. And now we have this pawn on e4, which it's a supportive pawn for this d5 pawn, which is grabbing a lot of space, but it's also a backwards pawn. We've talked about backwards pawns a couple of times so far in this tournament. And a backwards pawn is basically a pawn where it can't be pushed and it can't be supported. It's not supported by another pawn because the f pawn has already been pushed, right? And so it can become a long-term target or weakness. And basically, usually what you want to do with a backwards pawn is to push it or to blockade it. So like if White were able to put a piece on e6, that's obviously not possible because of f7. And yeah, the f7 pawn is not going to be pushed anytime soon. So this is just a target, and that's one of the reasons why this rook e8 move is so good, because it's just putting a little bit of pressure here. We have queen to c2, this developing move, which also adds another defender because it's attacked twice. We need to defend twice. a6, and black is going to prepare b5. And so whenever you're playing a game of chess and your opponent plays a6, you always have to wonder, is b5 coming next, right? This is the natural follow-up to a6. Because if we play b5 immediately, we just take it with multiple pieces. So a6, b5 is coming. How do we stop b5? If you've been watching the commentary so far, I hope that you know the answer to this is simply a4. And this is the move that was played, and it's a very, very important move because it just simply says no. Like, no, I'm not going to let you play b5 because now if b5 is played, can simply be captured. And actually, there's this pin on the rook, so you can't capture back. And even if there were no pin, let's say bishop to b7 had been played, this pawn would be hanging because there are 2 attackers. So of course there is this, but anyway, would not be possible. So a4 is a really important move and fighting for space on the queen side. And so after a4, of course, b5 is not played.
Hello.
Then, oh, Amelia, hello. Okay. Hello, we can hear
Hi.
you now. Welcome.
Sorry,
Welcome.
my microphone, this is pretend. The microphone I'm actually using is my headphones microphone because my
That's
computer
fine.
just doesn't want to recognize my microphone for some reason. So this is where we're at.
That's not a problem. Guys, for those of you who are not familiar with our guest today, this is Amelia, the president and founder of the Women in Chess Foundation, and also a very close friend of mine. She recently played her first tournament, and so now she is an over-the-board chess player. And
I am.
Amelia, you're my Kaya for the day.
I I am because viewers, what you'll know about me is there's no high level analysis coming out of my brain when it comes to looking at chess games. I care about what the players are feeling, what they had for breakfast. Like this is my, I am the Kaya Snare of this stream today, and I'm so happy to be here.
I love Kaya and I love you, and I think that is a really important thing missing from a lot of chess commentary is we don't always just want to hear, lines and lines and lines. We want to hear about the stories and we want to hear about the emotions, and I actually think that that's exactly what we get invested in with chess is the personalities and the stories. And so I'm very glad to have you here. And for those of you who are here to hear people rattle off, 15 lines of analysis, don't worry. We will have a second guest later in the stream helping us with some super high level analysis. So, Amelia, have you been following the tournament so far?
The only way that I've been following the tournament is through your stream and also through
That's the
the
best way to follow it.
depressing recaps we get from Dodgy at the end of the day.
Uh, yes. So actually, for those of you who don't know, our good friend Michael Duke, aka Mr. Dodgy, is also playing in this tournament, or also he's playing in this tournament whilst we watch from the sidelines. And
He
he's
was
been
really
having a
sad
pretty tough
yesterday.
tournament. Yeah, he had a very tough game yesterday. For those of you who watched the end of yesterday's commentary, Michael Duke, aka Mr. Dodgy, had a great position. He had about 5 minutes to 1 minute. And then in time trouble, his opponent started posing a lot of problems. And unfortunately, he blundered and lost his game, which means actually, unfortunately, I don't think he has a single win in the tournament. He has 2 draws and a half-point bye. So he's on 1.5 out of 5, which is really tough. But you have to consider the fact that he's playing in the Masters section, right? So he's 2045 FIDE. You're playing in the master section. His first game was against Jonah Willow, who's basically a grandmaster, and he's been playing a lot of very scary kids. So his opponent today is actually another scary kid. And what do I mean by scary kid? I mean it's somebody who's probably about 11 years old and 400 elo higher than their FIDE rating shows that they are. So today his opponent is gaining around 50 points in this tournament so far. He has only played people of around Mr. Dodgy's rating, and he has won, I think, 33% of those. So yeah, that's not bad. That's pretty nice. And the thing is, I think Mr. Dodgy, he just needs to not let the results demotivate him. Because I think when you stop being hungry for the win, it really changes everything.
That's so true. That is really true. I just reminiscing on my first tournament. I played my first tournament in Sligo, so I played in the Sligo Open in the under, I think it was under 1500. They ended up changing it, but um, I lost my first 2 games, and then I took a bye in the third round, and then I drew in the fourth round. And honestly, looking back at it, I should have been hungry for the win. Like I knew I was up, like I knew I was in a winning position. And but I got so nervous, and I was like, I just need to have, I was like, I just want to get points on the board. Like, this is where I'm gonna get that. And then so I went for the draw, even though I was in a winning position. And then what do you know? I don't get paired in the last round. So it was like it was really, you got to be hungry for the win for sure.
And this is a story I know all too well myself, because I think it was in London in my last tournament, the London Chess Classic, where I was having bad results and I took a draw in a winning position. And then I totally messed up my pairings for the rest of the tournament. Like, I started to get paired against unrated players and lower rated players, all because I lost my confidence and I allowed a draw. I accepted a draw in a winning position. So really in chess, the like bold player who always plays for the win is rewarded. It's that kind of game. And I really do admire that in professional chess players. You know, you don't get to grandmaster, you don't get to a world champion by playing for draws. So like this is great. We're gonna skip away from Mr. Dodgy's game. We're not super focused on him right now, because we do have all of the top level games going and we haven't really talked about them in depth yet. So
how's Ivanka doing?
That's a really good question. Somebody asked in chat, has Ivanka left the tournament? Actually, she took a bye today. So her and her husband both took byes today. I don't think they've left the tournament. I didn't hear anything about this. So I just assume that they've just taken a bye because they're tired, which is very normal. I think that when you're playing 9-round tournament, there's multiple double round days. It's very normal to just take a bye at some point during that, especially, you know, if you're traveling, and sometimes you actually just want to explore the place that you're visiting. So maybe they've gone to the alpaca farm today. Like I will maybe. This is what I like to believe. So yeah, Ivanka is having a bye today. But she was doing so well, and then yesterday she just had a really tough game. So she had a really beautiful win that we saw in round 2 with that bishop sacrifice. I know you saw that. And then in round 3 she got a draw against the top seed, Bobby Cheng, which is the game that we're looking at right now. Amelia, I can send you these player cams so you can open them if you want to. They're in our Google Meets chat if you're interested. And yesterday she unfortunately ended up being down a piece, and in like more of an endgame position there was really no counterplay, and she ended up resigning. And we have Lawrence Cooper in the chat saying that she played for NCL on Saturday and Sunday too. So she's had a very busy schedule.
Ooh, that's really busy.
So that's a lot of chess in a very short amount of time. And this tournament does go all the way up until Sunday. So that's a lot of chess. I think
it's a lot of chess.
Yeah.
I could barely handle a weekender.
So Amelia, how do you feel? This is not going to be a fun question for you. How do you feel about this position that we have between Bobby Cheng and Marcos Collados?
Oh, if I was here, I think I definitely would want to be white. I think Bobby has more space on the board. I like his knights feel more coordinated, which I really like. And the only thing is like his light square bishop, you know, little trapped, but like I think that's fine, really. I don't know. I definitely would want to be white here. I think that I don't know if I can see his plan. I don't know if I'm that advanced as Bobby, but I definitely think he has the better position on the board.
Right. I also really like Bobby's position. He has a lot of space, like you said. Board 3 is finished? What? Already? Oh, a draw. Oh, a short draw. Okay. Oh, this is a shame because this was very exciting. This was the position that we were talking about just as you were trying to join and we're having some tech problems. This was really exciting because there was actually this beautiful knight knight sacrifice and everything, and then winning back the knight with the pawn fork. And it's ended. So okay. So it's ended with a repetition. I see. Okay. Okay. I mean,
happens.
Yeah, I mean it happens. It's hard to speculate about this kind of thing. I don't really know what happened here. There is no Sophia rules at this tournament, which basically means that the players are not prevented from making draws. Sophia rules would be that you can't make a draw before move 30.
That's quite crazy. I'm kind of pro Sophia rules. Like, let's play chess. I don't want a quick draw. You know what I mean?
Right. I do get you. So I had this kind of situation arise when I was in Portugal for the Maya Chess Festival, and they had Sophia rules. So just to explain, because I didn't clarify earlier, with Sophia rules, you can still make a draw via repetition or a draw via perpetual check. So actually this draw would have been allowed, but a draw by agreement would not be allowed. Basically, I ended up having a draw by agreement in this tournament where it was not allowed before move 30. And I think we were on about move 24 or something. But we had both used almost all of our time, and we weren't close to move 40, obviously, because move 40 is where you get extra time in a lot of tournaments. In the Isle of Wight, they don't have extra time, but the tournament I was playing, you did. So we both would have had to play an extra kind of 15 moves with very low clock. And I was playing up by like 300 points. My opponent was around 2,000. And he offered me a draw. And I was like, yeah, of course. Of course I'm going to take a draw, because it's okay, I mean, I was thoughtful about it. He offered me a draw, and what I did was I spent quite a lot of my remaining time thinking about whether I wanted that draw, which is always the right thing to do, because if you're ever proposed a draw, you actually don't have to respond right away, as long as you respond on the same turn. So if somebody offers you a draw and you've got 30 minutes on the clock, you can spend those 30 minutes deciding if you want to take that draw, as long as you don't play a move. And the draw offer is valid as long as no more moves have been played, the clock hasn't been hit, all of this kind of stuff. So I spent kind of like the 7 or 8 minutes, I think, that I had, and I couldn't see like a win. I think maybe I was up a pawn, or I'm not even sure if I was up a pawn, but I had better pawn structure. Maybe I was up one. And I couldn't see like a clear way to get a winning position. And so I accepted his draw, and there wasn't a clear way to get a winning position. I had missed a win like a couple moves earlier that was very hard to find, that like a win that would have made Kramnik start the procedure if I'd found it with 10 minutes on the clock. But when I ended the game, did the handshake, accepted the draw, and then I went to do my recap with my live Twitch chat. My Twitch chat was like, Lula, no draws allowed. Like, you're not allowed to make this draw. And I panicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be thrown out of the tournament. They're not going to let me play chess anymore. Like, they're going to think I cheated. And like, of course, this was a completely legitimate game of chess. Like, no 2000 is going to agree to a prearranged draw with a 1700. Like a prearranged draw where you both spend all of your time. Like, this would be the most inefficient thing in the world and just not make any sense. So like, there was no question about it being a real game of chess, but I was so worried. And so I went and I told my opponent, like, we're not allowed to draw. And my opponent was also like a 13-year-old boy. So I'm not in the habit of having chit chat with them. So I like go and chase down my child opponent, like, oh my gosh, we've broken the rules. And like, he seems like not super phased by it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm phased by it. And then I chased down the arbiter who's having lunch in the cafeteria, like the head arbiter. And he's like, it's fine. No big, it's fine. It's fine.
It happened.
Like, and so like I ran back to my opponent and I was like, it's fine. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad, because I was worried they were going to make us play the position again. Which like they absolutely couldn't do because we both
Yeah.
already looked at the engine after the game had ended, so like we wouldn't have been able to play the position again. And then like I ran back upstairs to my chat and I was like, it's okay, I'm not being thrown out of the tournament. It's not a big deal. And basically this kind of thing does happen, and the only time where it wouldn't have been allowed was like if the arbiter was around and he saw us try to make the draw and he was like, no, you can't make the draw. But because no arbiter was watching, and like at open tournaments, you don't have arbiters surveying you all the time. Like it just doesn't happen. The Chexy in the chat saying they should have pulled us up on it when it happened. It's just not practical at an open tournament to have an arbiter looking at every single board like all the time.
Yeah, they don't have time for that. Like they have so many other things to be doing, like arbitering the tournament. Like
yeah, and like this happens a lot. For example, like if your opponent were to make an illegal move, you usually have to call an arbiter over. It's not the arbiter who's going to tell you they made an illegal move, right?
yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
I almost made an illegal move at Sligo by accident. I was like, I think I was pushing one of my pawns and I accidentally pushed it like 3 squares instead of 2. But I had left it there and then I was like, wait, shit. And so I was like, I'm really sorry. Like I told my opponent, I was like, I'm really sorry. Like I didn't mean to. And he was like, oh no, good you caught that. Because he didn't notice. And so I was like, yeah.
I've tried to do this multiple times by accident. Like it literally in my last tournament, I had a pawn, I think on like a6, and I just fully pushed it to a4. And my opponent was like, no, like that was on a6. And I was like, oh, like I just totally didn't realize, because I was already dead lost and I was just like playing moves just to try and like get it over with.
Honestly, the board, like you can kind of hallucinate it sometimes. I don't know if this has ever happened. Like
No,
I've hallucinated stuff on the board and I'm like, wait, that wasn't real.
No, that's legitimate. That's happened before. Okay, so board 3 is over. We can leave this one.
Let's go back to Bobby Cheng. I was really interested in that position.
Yeah, let's look at this Bobby Cheng position. So basically we left it off I think around here. And e5 is played, so striking at these nice 3 pawns in the center. So black is saying, you know, you have space, but I'm going to fight for space too. And then d5, so kind of blocking off the light squared bishop. But also blocking off our own light squared bishop, right? Because our light squared bishop is also on this diagonal. And then we have knight to a6. So knight to a6, is a really nice move. I mean, I think personally, I probably would have played knight to d7 because I thought maybe the knight is going to c5, but I guess this leaves you with options, right? So it leaves you with knight to c5, but there's also the chance to play knight to b4 if, you know, some kind of tactical situation arose where you wanted to do that. So that's fun. We have like very good control over these dark squares. It's going to be very hard for white to deal with this, I guess, kind of thing. And there's a bit of argument in chat about if the arbiter should have pulled me up on the draw. But basically, at a lot of tournaments, it's very common for you to just put your score sheets on your board and just leave them there. And that was the case at this tournament. Is you just, after you signed the sheets, if there was no arbiter, you just left them on your board. And that's exactly what happened. And clearly the arbiter didn't notice either when they came to collect it. And like these kinds of oversights happen all the time. Like people are human, so it's not a big deal.
I find, or at least I found that at tournaments, like I hate to say this because everyone's chess game is important, but a lot of the times, like the top boards are the most important, like for arbiters.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that are like being most looked at, and so a lot of the times like they will prioritize that over like me who was on board 106, like you know what I mean?
No, absolutely, I totally agree. And also, like, one thing that my community told me at the time after I made this draw was that the rules are actually not there to prevent what I did from happening. Like, that's not even the idea of the rule. No one cares if two players play for 3 hours and make a legitimate draw on move 25. Like, the rule is specifically there to stop people from making prearranged 2-move draws. And so, like, the spirit of the rule was to be one, which is like what you call
That's fair.
Yeah, it's kind of prophylactic, right? Because it anticipates this move knight to c5 or this move knight to b4. And it anticipates black getting a tempo on the queen somehow. And says, like, I'm not going to let you do that. I'll just get out of the way now and go for something else. Which totally makes sense to me. And I guess maybe there's the idea that you could at some point play like either b3 or b4 and play on the queen side. And I would totally agree with what you said earlier, Amelia. I think that White's knights feel relatively well coordinated. I guess maybe actually this knight on f3 would maybe
It could
want
be a little
to
bit better.
be somewhere else. Like maybe it would want to be on c3, or maybe it would actually probably, like, its dream would be to be on like b5 or at some point on c6 or something like this. And yeah, so we can see that knight b4 was the move that was played. And this is why knight to a6 was played instead of knight to d7, because knight to d7 doesn't allow for the flexibility. So very clear reasoning behind all of these moves. It's very easy when you start to like put these moves in their context to understand why grandmasters make the moves that they make, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Maybe we should take a look at Alexandra Prado's board.
Oh, okay.
Because she is streaming this event, which is nice. It's nice to see a streamer as a streamer myself. Okay, so let's just go back to where we were. So you used to play the dragon, right?
Yeah, I love the dragon. I play
Right.
the Dutch now, typically, and
Right, but that's against d4.
yeah, but against d4 I play the dragon.
Right. So we had a dragon here actually. We had a hyper accelerated dragon. And what I was saying to chat earlier before you joined is that this c4 system is called the Maroczy bind. And this is a way White can play where they just get a very nice space advantage and lots of control over the d5 square. And we kind of got to around this f3 move, key in stopping the knight from coming to g4. This is where we got to. And then d6, bishop to e2, and bishop to e6, knight to c3, and rook to c8. And this is where I said that White had a great position. We have rook to c1.
White does have a great position.
Is played. Yeah, so White has a really beautiful position. And I personally don't play this as black. I don't play the Sicilian because I think why would you want to be on black's side of this when White has such a beautiful position? And b6 is played, which is an interesting move. I said earlier we're already out of book, and b6 here is an idea that I'm not familiar with. I guess we're just stopping anything from hopping up here, but it's not really a concern at any time because the knight's covering. So and we've got the d pawn already covering these central squares. So b6, and I just want to talk about maybe some other some other candidate moves that Alex had here.
Can we flip the board? Do you mind?
Right, of course we can flip the board to look at it from Alexandra's perspective. So I guess if I were trying to talk myself into playing b6, then I would say, what if I move my knight? Because in the next move, she actually did. So we have this like beautiful clue of knowing her next move. And her next move was knight to e5. And if knight to e5 happens right now, then a6 is hanging.
Yeah.
And b6 means that if knight to e5, a6 is not hanging. But so it's a preparatory move. It prepares knight to e5. The thing is the engine really doesn't like knight to e5.
I also don't like it. I don't think that, at least like for me, I personally, when I play the dragon, the number one thing that I'm afraid of is like not castling. And so I like kind of wish she would have castled already, but I understand kind of, well, I actually don't understand why she maybe didn't, but I don't know. I feel like now I'm just really depressed. Even though like yes, this light squared bishop is like kind of like it's not horrible, but I just feel like it could be better. And then I don't know, things just feel really closed off for her, and I feel like knight to e5 made things even more closed off.
Yeah, I think that we have this kind of kebab, like this
Exactly.
kebab
This just
of
kebab.
chess pieces, the chess kebab on the dark squares, and it makes the position feel cluttered. Like it feels like going into somebody's apartment and they have everything they've ever owned still there. Like, you know?
I just don't know why her bishop is on e6. Like someone said this in the chat, like why is her bishop on e6? I don't know. I don't know why she put her bishop there.
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess she was maybe this was in her preparation. Like this is all I can think is that like she checked a line with bishop to e6, and like something that Katie was saying in some of our earlier commentary is that it's very easy to actually just get your lines mixed up. So it's kind of possible
That's so true.
that happened. That she saw this bishop e6 idea in another line and played it here. Knight to e5 and then knight to d4 is played, and we really do have this kebab. We've got 5 pieces on this diagonal, and all of a sudden, like this dragon bishop, which is supposed to be this killer sniper bishop going all the way to the end of the board, is kind of congested, right? He can't see anything. He's behind 3 walls. He's in prison. I don't know. I think like I kind of get the idea behind b6. Like after the c file clears, you also are preventing c5 pushes from coming easily, but it's not active enough. And this is a problem that that Alex had yesterday in her game as well, where she played it wasn't b6, but it was similar. It was actually it was b3. So yesterday she played b3, and it was actually the move that let her opponent kind of take the lead and start steering. So it's like this one move that is not super switched on, and then all of a sudden the other side gets this initiative. And I think that it can be very easy to feel like now you've prepared knight e5, this is your plan, you have to go down your plan. But even after b6, like you still have other opportunities to make different moves. Like you can play like knight to d7. You can like really unleash your bishop here. And now in this position, you can really argue that you have a great dragon bishop, right? Because you have no pieces in the way. Whereas the position that we have has these 3 horses parked in the stable, like right in the way of the bishop. And
her or her opponent, like they're like the knight on d5 just looks so good. Like it just is like chef's kiss. That's where you want your knight. And so
yeah, it's really nice. It's a beautiful piece. And you never really want to take it as black because then you allow white to get this really
Mm-hmm.
advanced D pawn that's like clamping, like you could play C takes, and then you got connect 4. And, you know, if you get connect 4, actually, it's in the FIDE rulebook that your opponent has to resign.
Oh yeah, that it's a new rule they implemented for sure. Yeah. The last Congress. I
um,
was there. I was advocating for it.
but yeah, I guess having these two pieces on the E file, and we've got no F or E breaks, we've got no pawn breaks. We're a bit tricky. Like we're a bit stuck for plans. Um, and this is completely, well, it's not completely irrelevant, but it's a separate issue in and of itself. Is that this is something I see happening a lot with beginners, and Alexandra is not a beginner at all. She's a good chess player, but after kind of e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, whatever, and you've got your pieces out and gotten castled, I noticed that people who are newer to chess stop moving pawns. Like they just stop moving any pawns, and they only do like piece play. They only move the pieces. And they kind of seem to forget at some point that the pawns can also move, and they're very important for transforming the nature of the position. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because like as soon as like if you don't know anything about chess, you know, then what you start doing is you just start like randomly pushing pawns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll play just like b5, b4, b like, you know. But then as soon as you learn a little bit about chess, you learn, you know, you develop your central pawns, you get your pieces out. Then all of a sudden, the pawns, you kind of stop touching them. I don't know why this is like something that I see happening so
Yeah.
much. And in positions where you feel really, really stuck, I think this is something that it took me a really long time to understand. And I think that it was one of the reasons why I also used to hate playing against d4 so much, was because I didn't understand the pawn breaks required from the openings I was trying to play. Is like you have to know your pawn breaks and your opening. You have to know how to transform the position, because like if you just allow your opponent to have a beautiful pawn structure and beautiful pieces and you don't like fight back against that, you end up being completely miserable, and having a really unhappy, uncomfortable position. So I mean, in this position, it's very hard for Alexandra to play knight c6 because she's just moved her knight from c6, right? She's just
Mm-hmm.
played knight c6 to e5. But actually, this is our top engine move, is knight back to c6. And
Yeah.
sometimes the best move is just going back, which is hard to come to terms with, um,
Mm-hmm.
because it also kind of argues, like if you play knight back to c6, it argues that b6 did nothing as well. You know, it argues that like your whole plan was the wrong plan. Um, and like I'm sure she's got an idea, and I'm sure she's got a plan she's thinking of. I'm just not sure what it is. Um, but
I
it's
mean, if
interesting.
I were her, I think that my like main goal would be to one, unclog that diagonal that my dark squared bishop is on, but also to like find a way to get my light squared bishop more involved as well, like moving these like minor pieces on the E file, the F file, so that I can eventually like push my pawn. Because I agree with you. I think that her pawns, like, there's no pawn breaks, but also at the same time, like, I think with the Sicilian dragon, like, you need to have a good coordinated effort between. It's like dancing, you know, like when you're dancing in a group, in especially like ballet or whatever, you know, you have to have like a good kind of choreography between your pawns and your minor pieces. Like, and I think she is trying. If I were her, my goal would be to like maneuver to the point where um I had that good coordination.
Mm. And I mean, she can also castle, right?
Hmm.
Like this is possible. This is something that she could do. I wonder if she's concerned about like f4. I just don't think f4 is a big issue. Um,
Same.
I thought that maybe you could play just this way, but actually maybe your bishop gets trapped. I think that this maybe doesn't work because of
Yeah.
tactical reasons.
I would
Um,
maybe,
but
I
here
don't know,
this does, okay, I mean, very simply it just hangs e4 with a tempo on the queen, but I thought originally there would be something here. But yeah, f4 is not possible, so the castling shouldn't be a big deal. I mean, white can just castle, and then, I mean, if we get same side castling in this dragon, then black shouldn't be too afraid. They should just try to consolidate their pieces, like bishop to d7. Maybe we can try and kick this knight out, because this knight is probably the best piece on the board. It's really annoying. It's a really good piece.
it is.
Yeah, this is this kind of thing. I don't know, maybe it's too weakening for these dark squares. The engine seems to really hate it, and I can think that the only reason is because it's weakening for the dark squares. But I think she's given herself a tricky position to play. Should we
Yeah.
take a look? And she plays castles, so this does make sense.
Okay,
Should we
that's
take a
good. I'm
look?
happy she castled.
Yeah. Should we take a look at board 1
Yeah.
for Bobby Cheng, Marcos
Interesting rook
Collados?
placement.
Yeah, we've had some fun rook lifts over the past 2 days. This is another fun rook lift. So let's just go back to where we left off. So the last move we saw was queen to b1, just to get kind of a sense of continuity. And then we knew that this knight was coming to b4. And knight to e1 is played. So knight to e1, we're kind of allowing our bishop to support e4 as well, in case this knight moves. We don't want to hang this. And this knight is obviously not going to stay on e1. It's going on a journey. So maybe this journey will be that we put it on d3 and we try to trade off this knight. This seems to be very principled. Or I guess it can also go to c2, but then you'd have to be careful that there's no like weird tactics with knight d3, but there shouldn't be. So we have bishop to a6, moving the bishop onto a more active diagonal now. And rook c3. So rook c3 is a bit of a quirky move for sure.
Yeah, like I see the vision, but quite quirky. Don't know if I would have executed the vision that way.
It's fun though. It's fun, and I like this kind of lateral rook move because there is an argument against playing b3 here because your rook is now in jail, right? Whereas if you play rook to c3, you can always follow up later with b3. But now your rook is a much more active piece, and it can kind of move around and do things and see the world and, you know, have a good life.
Like girls in their 20s.
Yeah, like us.
Like us.
And okay, so this knight reroute to put this d knight maybe on c5, and you'd have a really beautiful pair of knights if this knight manages to go to this outpost. So this is kind of why I mentioned before that knight e1 is a really good idea, because you don't want these two knights to have such good control over the d3 square. So if we jump in now with a move like knight d3 or knight c2, then it's gonna be too late if we wait, basically. Like if we play a random move and this knight comes to c5, we now have, I mean, okay, we can't do it because we're gonna lose material, right? We're gonna lose an exchange here. So even though we have 3 defenders of the square, they're not 3 of the right defenders. And so we need to be quite aware of this plan. Of course, Bobby, being Grandmaster, is not struggling to understand this. He's probably looking at the differences between knight c2 and knight d3 and seeing if it makes a significant difference or not to do this. Engine seems to think that it's pretty negligible.
I'm no Grandmaster, but I also thought it was quite negligible.
Yeah, I mean, anyone saying knight c2 is clearly the superior move has Stockfish open, because I can see here that Stockfish says that it's the top engine move, but it's the top
Hmm.
engine move by 0.06. So it really makes no difference at all
Hmm.
on any human level. And knight d3 is played, which is perfectly valid. Like there's really not gonna be a huge difference.
Hmm.
So
Are you a knight's girl or a bishop's girl? I sometimes I think it changes for you, but where are you at right now?
This is a really good question. I think I spent a long time in my kind of past couple of tournaments and like coaching like sessions trying to make myself a bishop's girl, because I think beginners love knights, right? I always loved knights when I was a beginner because you can fork, and like if you have a knight on the board in time trouble, it's never game over. Like you always
Hmm.
have chances. Only a knight can fork a king and a queen on its own, right?
That's so true.
Um, like no other piece actually has that ability at all, because the
Hmm.
queen could capture any other piece. Only the knight has a unique enough move to overpower the queen and the king like that. So the knight is really super unique. It's great for beginners. It's great for tricky positions. Great for closed positions. Great for time trouble. But the bishop pair, nothing has ever made me feel so stressed as like a fully activated bishop pair on an open board. Like it can even feel stronger than your queen sometimes. Obviously it's not, but like a fully activated bishop pair can feel like it's worth much more than the 6 points that it is. So I think it's very different if it's a bishop on its own or if it's a bishop pair, and I also think it's different if you're in an endgame or if you have
Hmm.
uh like there are so many like qualifying statements I can make by like, oh, it depends. Um, I actually think that, if I had to delete one of the two, I would delete the bishop, because the bishop is just one part of the queen, whereas the knight is very unique.
That's
I
so
know.
true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I warped your question into a totally different question as to like
That's okay.
if I could only keep one of them, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if both sides were to lose one of them, it would probably be better for both sides to lose the bishop.
Hmm.
Uh, and now knight takes d3. So as we can see, if black was going to capture here anyway, like what is the difference if black captures here and captures here? The only difference is like, I guess, where your queen ends up after capturing, or where your rook ends up after capturing, however you decide to capture it back.
Hmm.
Um, it's going to be queen captures here, because if rook captures, then I feel like this doesn't look so good. Well, actually, I guess maybe there are tactical reasons, because after this you just have either rook c1 or rook c. No, you have rook c3, and then you can attack the pinned piece with b3. So yeah, it isn't a
True.
big deal. I still think I would favor queen to d3. Queen is more active here, and even after knight c5, your queen can go somewhere else, like either e3 or e2, and now your queen is poised to move over to the king side if you need to.
Hmm.
So I think that I would prefer to play this way, and I don't think it's the biggest deal that black gets a tempo on you. Um, but yeah, I think that actually, even though white has this space, black really does have this outpost, which is a beautiful outpost. And I guess, like after all of this, sorry, after all of this happens and like some move like this, we can play for maybe knight to b3 at some point. It might be a bit tricky at first because the bishop is here, so we would need to deal with this.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think it's nice. It's actually a very nice counterplay for black against the space and the structure. So
Hmm.
should we
Someone
take a
said
look?
that they joined
Oh,
this
sorry.
stream because they saw someone mirroring the stream. We are restreaming this on Mr. Dodgy's channel. That's where
Yeah,
you saw us.
Yeah, so we're restreaming on Twitch. We're streaming to Mr. Dodgy. We're streaming to my YouTube. We're streaming to the Isle of Wight chess YouTube as well. So if anyone else is also restreaming this, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, more views for
Cool.
us.
Thank you, though. Let's take a look at board 2. So this is interesting. Emilia, I know you weren't here for this, so I'll flick back to the beginning. And actually, we're only 13 moves deep into this game, so
Oh,
we're still
wow.
relatively in the opening. But these two players, and for anyone who joined late, are Sebastian Bogner from Switzerland. He's a grandmaster. We've been following his games throughout the tournament. And with the white pieces, we have FIDE master Stanley Barisonei. And he's a very promising young English chess player who is performing very, very well in this tournament. He currently has a performance rating of 2460.
Oh, wow.
His FIDE rating is 2307, so he's definitely on the up and up for his rating. And I'm sure he'll be extremely happy to be playing Sebastian Bogner today. Like, if you are one of these young players and you're looking to gain elo, like, you want to be paired up, right? You always want to be playing up because that's how you gain rating. And that's also how you learn and improve, is by playing people stronger than you. So we've had lots and lots of d4 games. This was a Nimzo Indian, and we end up in this kind of position. This is where we got to with the chat where I talked about bishop back to d3 and c5. So this is where we were, and I talked about possible candidate moves that white could have, and I talked about how you can castle, how you can play knight to b5 to attack the bishop, and also how you can play knight to e5. Knight to e5 was the move in the end that was chosen. And I guess we should talk about why black is not going to take and take. So even though this kind of looks like not a great pawn, it's not super easy to capture it back because of f4. So we actually would be giving white these really scary attacking pawns to come here and destroy us on the king's side. And this knight is going to get a little bit stuck here as well. It's going to end up having to go somewhere it probably doesn't want to go. So this is why bishop takes knight is not a concern. And so knight to e5 is very nice, and bishop to a6 to trade off the bishop. Usually the bishop would have gone to b7 earlier in the game, but bishop to a6 is another idea to trade off this bishop. And so this light squared bishop is very, very powerful. White's light squared bishop, the reason being that it has a clear view to the king. And, you know, after something like queen c2, we have queen bishop battery, we have attacking ideas. The bishop to a6 is a really common idea on a lot of openings to trade off the strongest minor piece there. So we have takes and castles, knight c7. So it does take a little bit longer to get this knight out, but the knight can actually now come through e6. And it's quite nice because you have it controlling different squares to your other knight. I have Lawrence Cooper in chat saying that Stanley is playing in his GM Norm tournament in March. This is good practice. Yeah, I'm sure that when you're a young, underrated chess player like this, you want to be playing in as many Norm events as possible. It basically guarantees you strong opposition and very good chances to get norms. So we now have knight to g4, offering to trade off these knights. This is kind of strange to me, honestly. I'm not quite sure I understand why you would want to do this.
Honestly, I personally hate the idea of, like, I just hate that we traded off our light squared bishop. Like, I don't know why, I'm just a big fan of the bishops, so. But then to also trade off one of your knights, I don't really understand it either.
So here, instead of bishop takes h6, a6, I mean, there aren't many options. I guess you can really try to avoid it with knight to b5. But I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it helps us.
Yeah.
Like, this is not where the knight wants to be either.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I guess if takes and takes, maybe there's like wanted to say that maybe there was some like c4 idea and the bishop gets stuck, but it doesn't. It just seems to be like not in the spirit of the position. I guess now
Yeah.
because you've given up your c3 knight, this knight from black is just very, very strong here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you're either gonna have to like take off yourself, or you're gonna have to spend a long time trying to get rid of it. I think that it makes sense that you just accept this trade. Like there's
Yeah.
not a whole lot you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because this knight is really important for controlling these key central squares anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So castles and knight to g4. I think it just seemed weird to me. I guess there is some idea here with like going for like even like e4, e5. I'm not sure. Like e4 takes, knight takes. I'm not really sure. Like it seems a bit odd. I guess f4 is extremely committal and creates this kind of hole on e4, so you might not want to go for something as traumatic as that, but it would be a very active way to try and play the position. Other options, other options, other options. Yeah. And engine is enjoying bishop e1, but this is a very engine move, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The engine can only be trusted so far.
So true.
And then rook c8, and it's wanting f4 anyway. So having control over these squares with the bishop at some point, I guess. f4 is something that seems like Stanley didn't want to go for and wanted to avoid. And now c4, which is interesting because usually c4 is not the move in these positions, but I guess without the light squared bishops, it's fine. You're just gonna create this light
Mm-hmm.
squared pawn structure controlling these squares. And now knight takes knight, queen takes knight, and e4. Okay, so this was the idea. This is what I said the idea would potentially be. I don't see personally why you can't just take queen takes d4, and the engine does agree with me that you can just play queen takes d4. I guess you do get a free tempo on the queen, but is a tempo enough for threatening checkmate? This is kind of nice, like, seems kind of nice to me. As black, I would be not unhappy with this position.
Yeah.
But this is not actually what was played. Black instead played d takes e4. And now there
Interesting.
is knight takes e4 is a possibility. I guess Stanley is deciding if he wants to do this. It seems like there's this little tactical shot here to grab a pawn, check, and pick the knight back up. So maybe this is what he's calculating right now. I assume it is exactly what he's calculating right now because black does just win a free pawn
Yeah.
here. I guess you win this one back, but you have a very weak, isolated deep pawn then, and maybe it's going to be grabbed at some point.
Yeah, and that would be a little hard to play if you're
Yeah, I
always having
think,
to worry about that pawn.
yeah, it's not fun.
Mm-mm. Not fun at all.
Mm, yes, yeah. Okay, well, I guess this is exactly what Stanley is calculating, and if he's probably looking for another option here, looking for a
Mm-hmm.
better choice. Like rook e1 to set this up without there being a check to pick up the knight. But
Mm-hmm.
then you do have like rook e8 to prevent this. I mean, you've still got knight takes, but you've still got this tactical idea.
What
And then,
about
yeah,
what if we played Hold on, I'm analyzing the board.
That's fine.
What if we played G3?
Right away.
Like instead of like moving the rook, like what if we played G3? Is that really bad?
I don't think it is really bad, but it's just the point in rook e1 is we're still threatening to take this pawn. Whereas I
Mm,
think now you can just prevent the pawn from being taken, because if we try to go after it now, like we're tempo behind. So
yeah.
we're because we spent a tempo not trying to recapture the pawn, our
Mm-hmm.
moves are one tempo behind in fighting for e4. And white
Okay.
can just grab this now as well. So as you can see, like,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
it's not like the worst move on the board by any means. It's not like a huge blunder, but it's just not fighting for these pawns. And I guess it wouldn't really be in the biggest problem was it's not really in the spirit of the position because we just played e4, right? That was our last
Yeah.
move. And we've been analyzing this for a while, so we hadn't been looking at the fact that e4 was our last move. But if you have just played e4 and you're very cognizant of the fact that that was your last move, you're not going to then play a move that's not directly related to this
Mm,
central pawn mass, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but knight takes e4 is played. And
Okay.
so I guess Sebastian has to look at this. And he can also look at queen takes d4 as well, but this pawn is going to be a long-term weakness. Sorry, this pawn will be a long-term weakness because it's isolated and because we'll be trading off most of the minor pieces, so he can grab it later. Should we take a look at Mr. Dodgy's game, Amelia?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Let's see how he's
Okay.
doing.
So Mr. Dodgy is up on the clock, which is nice for him. We can
Mm-hmm.
go back to the beginning because we actually didn't see much about this game so far. We have a Queen's Indian, which actually is our second Queen's Indian of the day, interestingly. And I'm kind of curious about like why, because we played a3 to threaten b4 about why b4 is not good in this position. But allegedly just because we come with a tempo on the queen. Okay, I understand. And now we are getting a tempo on the rook because the b pawn has moved.
Yeah.
And there are like some tactical things, and this is quite annoying to calculate from distance. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
just castles is very, very reasonable. And then a5 now stops this b4 idea from happening. Because let's say castles. Now I think b4 is like more of an idea because after this, our g2 bishop is no longer hanging
Mm-hmm.
as well. So it's like less stressful to calculate that too.
Yeah.
So just knight to c3 and b3. And we're probably going to put this bishop here on b2. We have nice development. We have nice fianchetto bishops. I like Mr. Dodgy's position. How do you feel about it, Amelia?
I like it. It's quite good. I, as a beginner serious chess player, like always get nervous about not having any pawns in the center of the board. And so like for me, I know that
Mm.
he definitely does have a bit more space and like more movement with his minor pieces, but I miss my pawns on the D file. Like
Yeah, I totally understand that. And like d5 from black is definitely something we have to keep an eye on. I can see that it was played a couple of moves later, so let's go ahead to that
Mhm.
and talk about it because you make a very good point about these central pawns. Central pawns are very important. Okay, so he's going for some tactical ideas. He's attacking the bishop. Black is saying, you can take my bishop, I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm not going to move it out of the way. There isn't really a good place to put it. And here Dodgy plays this move knight to g5. It's actually the top engine move. And he's threatening bishop takes knight, queen takes h7, king to h8, queen h8 check, sorry, queen to f8, queen h8 check, and then I guess king e7 is where you end up. And I'm like wondering if there is a follow-up. There doesn't seem to be a follow-up there, but this is still an interesting idea. And h6 is played.
Why did Daji take on? Sorry, I'm looking ahead, but I'm very confused as to why he took on c5.
Why did Daji take on c5? This is a good question. So there are a couple of different choices, right? You can either take the bishop, you can either take the knight, or you can just move your knight. These are all choices. And Daji decided to take this bishop as an intermezzo before taking the knight. And I'm guessing the reason for this is there is a positional kind of idea here where you now have an isolated A pawn, because you can't take with the queen. If you take with the queen, then bishop takes a knight is a problem, because if takes, then you're getting checkmated here.
Yeah.
And if they don't take, then you have super strong bishop, you win the exchange. So you have to absolutely take here on c5 with the b pawn. So this is incredibly forcing. I think it would be very tempting to play the most forcing moves. We have a question in chat. Is minor pieces all the ones that aren't pawns, kings, or queens? So minor pieces just tend to be our knights and our bishops. And actually fun fact is, for the queens and the rooks, we usually call them heavy pieces. We don't call them major pieces. I don't know why, really. We call them heavy pieces, which is fun naming. There's lots of strange naming cultures in chess for things. Yeah, but like I said, it can be very tempting to play the most forcing line, right? This seems to be incredibly forcing. And I guess Dodgy is saying, like, you're always giving your opponent the chance to mess up. Like, if they take with the queen, then they've really messed up. But of course, they're not going to take with the queen. So they don't take with the queen. And now he plays knight to e4. And I had this talk with him the other day when he missed a slightly better variation of a line. And he said, yeah, I calculated that, but it seemed pretty much equal. And this is probably the same situation where he's going to tell us afterwards, I calculated both and it seemed pretty much equal. And so he just went for the one he preferred. And here, of course, we have the engine, right? So we can tell that bishop takes f6 is plus 1.16 and the knight takes c5 is only plus 0.6. But this is not something that you're aware of when you're playing the game, and it's not something that you're thinking about when you're playing the game. You should never be concerned about the engine evaluation when you're playing your chess game. So if he calculated bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen to h7, and he saw that, like, there's nothing here now, like he can't play queen h8, because then you end up having two pieces hanging, right? Your queen is hanging to the rook and your knight is hanging to the pawn. This is actually bad. And here, I guess he missed that you get this tempo on the queen. It's actually very hard to see from a distance, that you kind of get this like weird pressure. Even like queen e5, so we're defending. I guess you can play takes, and and we're trying to kick the queen away. So there's very concrete reasons for why the engine likes this. And even the engine is not really sure anymore. The engine's not really saying that this is the move. So it just wants rook a d1 to keep the advantage. I guess we are looking at this backwards pawn, and we're gonna try and kick the queen away without allowing queen to d4. So let's say that some random move was played. Now this knight takes is a lot stronger, because f4 there's no queen d4 check, right? Because we're covering it. So now the queen has to be traded. and you win this pawn outright, and you're probably winning another pawn. So this is like 8 moves away from where Mr. Dodgy is sitting with his board looking at his position, right? And this is an incredibly forcing line. It's really an engine line, and no human is going to play this. And so, like, we can criticize Mr. Dodgy for playing knight takes c5 here instead of playing bishop takes f6, but I think it's incredibly difficult here to see this if you're not a Magnus Carlsen or a Grandmaster. To see that you give this check with a queen, to see that you get this tempo, to see that you then don't continue to attack the queen, but for one move you play rook d1, and now you have to go for this attack here, and you're not even forcibly winning the pawn. You're only winning the pawn if black plays some random move. So this is just +1, right? And it's just kind of not really any tangible human advantage. So it's totally a valid question when you're looking at it with the engine.
I just think for me, one thing that I learned when I was playing in my first tournament is that I definitely should not underestimate my opponent. And for me playing knight to c5, my brain would automatically go to, oh yeah, they know that they shouldn't take with the queen. Obviously we want to hope that, maybe they don't and they'll blunder and whatever, but I don't know, for me it just feels more intuitive to assume that my opponent sees what I see, so I need to make sure that I'm playing I don't know, that I'm playing a move that I don't know where I'm going with that, but do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I totally do know what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is you always have to assume that your opponent is going to play the best move available. Right? Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes we don't see the best move available, obviously, because we're not engines. We just have to assume that your opponent will always see it, especially when you're playing classical chess and your opponent has the time. There's no point in going for cheap tricks in classical chess. You can set up tactical ideas and you can play tricky moves that will make the position harder for your opponent to calculate. We've got this kid standing in front of the camera, just that was very funny. Sorry. A lot of the time, one strategy that people use to try to win chess games against specific opponents is taking them into a difficult position and knowing that they're the better calculator. This is the Mikhail Tal take your opponent into a deep dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5 and the path out is only wide enough for 1. Right? So you're deliberately making life very difficult for your opponent because you know that they're gonna struggle. But this is not the same as going for a cheap trick and hoping that your opponent will just play queen takes knight and just blunder checkmate in a couple moves. But yeah, I think that you do have some players who are particularly tricky, and I'm afraid of them. So
yeah. Can we look at because one of the WICF scholars is playing. Her name is Rakaya Rita. Can we look at her game?
Yeah. How do I spell her name?
RAQ. Wait, hold on. Let me look. Type in Rita, RID. Yeah, that's her.
Okay. Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar, Amelia is the president of the Women in Chess Foundation, which is the only chess charity that is, highlighting issues with women and girls in chess, trying to improve safeguarding measures, really championing women and girls in chess. And they have an amazing program called the WICF Scholars, which is a program that's about to start its second iteration, which I'm very excited for, where a number of girls are chosen to receive Grandmaster coaching, to receive support for following their chess dreams. And I was very lucky to meet one of the scholars at the Olympiad when I was there with WICF. Amelia, do you want to tell us a little bit more about WICF scholar that you have here?
Yeah, this is for Kaya Rita. She is a WFM from England. She's literally like, I think she's 12, maybe 13, but she's super young. But the absolute improvement that she has made, like, this is not even like part of the scholars program, but like even before she joined the scholars program, the improvement that she has made, like in the past like 2 years in her chess career and in her rating, like, have been incredible. She's so good, and she's also so funny and like hilarious, and um so she's playing Dachi is really afraid to get paired with her. um but she's been really great, and she's one of the promising young talents like coming out of the UK, and yeah.
That's super exciting. Can you tell me anything more about the second iteration of the Scholars Program? Are applications still available? Like,
yeah
are they still
so
open?
Yeah, so applications are still open until next Monday, or until this upcoming Monday.
Hmm.
If you know a young female chess player who is kind of like right on the brink of like success, but just kind of needs that extra push or that extra support, um, you know, please send them the application. I can put it in the link. Hold on, let me pull it up, the application link, and I can put it in the chat for you guys. Or I'll put it in the chat for Lula so she could put it in the chat because I don't
Yeah,
have
I
the
can do
chat
that. Yeah,
up.
totally. Mm.
Um, like please share it with someone you might know, because we're always looking for talented young scholars, and we keep the uh like previous applications. So we are going to be considering like applications from 2024 and stuff. So um yeah, and we're inviting all of the girls from 2024 back, and as well we will choose 10 new girls to join and be a part of the program, and they'll receive 3 months of free coaching from WIM Luciana Morales and GM Archer Yusupov. And then they will also be receiving free chessable courses, so that they can um, you know, get what they
Improve.
need to succeed.
That's super exciting. I wish that I was a 12-year-old girl learning chess and being really good at chess. Like, I needed this
Same.
kind of thing to exist when I was younger because I didn't even know that girls played chess when I was 12, which is the sad thing. But I'm really, really excited to see, how popular this program is as well, because I know you guys received a lot of applications. And even though, of course, you can't accept every application, the really heartening thing is to see how many girls are interested and therefore
Hmm.
how many girls are playing chess and succeeding in playing chess well. This is an interesting camera angle. Okay, I think some people don't know that the camera is there. It's fine. I think that my time with you, Amelia, is limited, right? You have to go
That is
relatively
true.
soon. Can
I
you
do
tell
have to
me
head out.
anything more about the Women in Chess Foundation? I know that you're trying to get advocates in as many tournaments as possible, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so we have if you're wanting to make chess a safer place and wanting to, help out your chess community, you can take our advocacy training, which is essentially we're just teaching you how to, support those who have experienced misconduct in chess, how to report it. We have those classes starting back up in June, because I am, in fact, also a PhD student. So at the moment, I am quite busy. So after I pass my comprehensive exam, I will be starting advocacy training up again. And then, as well, if you just want to volunteer with us or you're interested in helping us out, you can go to our website, womeninchess.com, and read all about the work they do. If you would like to donate as well, because we are a nonprofit organization and we rely strictly on donations, and that would be super, super helpful. We raised about $10,000 last in January, like for our annual stream, but we always are looking for more donations so that we can continue putting on the scholars program because we do pay for the scholars training out of our own pocket. So if you would like to support that, you can find everything on our website.
Thank you. I'm very excited to see how the scholars do this year. And so just going back to Rukaya Rida, 2101 rated WFM from England. She is currently performing at about her rating. She's on 3 out of 5 so far. So she's got wins actually against Alexandra Prao, our streamer for the tournament, and against 2 other players. Unfortunately, she had a tough game in round 1, losing to a lower rated player. But I mean, when you're playing other kids, like they're never really the rating that they are.
That's so true.
Right? And we have FIDE Master Michael Fernandez in chat saying, I didn't know she was with WICF. She plays in the London League and I hear scary things about her. Yeah, she's very powerful.
Scary. She's powerful.
So today she's playing against FIDE Master Moritz Collins. So there's quite a few Swiss players in the tournament. We had a Swiss on Swiss battle the other day. And it's always nice to see people kind of coming in teams, or like lots of people from the same federation traveling together and playing tournaments, which is fun. I don't know if these guys are friends, but it's cool to see it. And so she's actually got a really interesting position. She played an e4, c5, like open Sicilian Taimanov, and she's got these doubled f pawns, which are a little bit tricky to deal with. She's just played g takes f3 because of bishop takes bishop. So she's deliberately allowed these f pawns, right, to get doubled, because here she's not forced to play bishop f3, but it is the top engine move. She did play it. She could have played f3, but it was better to trade off the bishops, and she did. So she clearly got very good positional understanding of her Sicilian here that she's playing against. And this was a very strong light squared bishop from black. So it's just gonna be a situation, I think, where she's gonna want to push f4, f5 as soon as possible. When you have doubled pawns, you want to usually get rid of them. You want to get rid of at least one of your doubled pawns there, so that you fix your pawn structure. And of course, we've still got black's king right in the center of the board. So if we can open up around the king, we do. Of course, we don't have queens on the board anymore, so it's unlikely anyone's going to be getting checkmated here. But I mean, if it was white's turn, I think they would immediately play f4. And it's not. So I guess black is having a think here about his options. Rook c8 seems very natural. Developing the rook to the semi-open file. The rook almost always comes to c8 in the Sicilian here for black in these open positions, because you've played c5 on move 1. The pawn no longer ends up being there. Rooks belong on the most open files available. Rook c8 is a very natural move, natural idea. Maybe also considering this idea of b4, just kicking the knight, because it can go to a4, but it doesn't look happy there, right? Like it doesn't want to live here. Maybe it can come here and put some pressure on d7. Maybe we'll see. Also, other possible candidate moves for black, I guess, f6. F6 is actually the top engine move here, which is interesting. Putting pressure on this e pawn, because of course we don't really want to play e takes f6 and leave herself with these doubled isolated f pawns. Like this is usually not what we want to do. And so actually here it's a bit better to just play f4. And of course black is never going to take, because if black takes here, then white all of a sudden has these beautiful pawns. And black has kind of split their pawn islands. So what I can tell you guys is, if you're not familiar about the intricacies of pawns and pawn structure, like me neither, but you basically want as few pawn islands as possible. So a pawn island is just when the pawns are next to each other on adjacent files, and this is the healthiest pawn structure you can have when they are adjacent to each other, because then they can be supporting one another, right? Whereas if there is a gap, this h pawn, for example, white's h pawn is isolated, meaning it cannot be supported by his friends. And black had very healthy pawn structure here, right? On the king's side with these nice 5 pawns, beautiful pawn island. And so he's probably not going to take here and damage his pawn structure.
So
Amelia, I
true.
know that you're pressed for time.
I
How
am.
are you doing?
I have to go, but it was so nice
Okay.
being here with all of you. I hope that Daji and Rakaya do their best. And yeah, I will be watching. I just have to go because I have a dog here now and have to dog sit for a little bit. So
Okay,
yeah.
no problem. Their pieces guarding it whilst staying active. So even if black really does start to pile up on it, white is not under any big threats. However, this g6 move, and we have our second guest joining. Perfect. This is great. Hello, Lawrence.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Are you using the right camera?
Yes, I'm just trying to get myself central. Is that okay?
You're very zoomed in, is the only
Oh,
thing.
shall I go back a bit?
Maybe a little bit, and it would be great to see your whole face.
Well, I don't know. You might get a bit fed up of it. Just try. Oops. Sorry, my head's rather covering the screen, isn't it? Move it back a bit. How's that?
It's all right.
Well,
I can see, like, I would say
I
50%
can,
of you.
yeah, or I can put another cushion on the chair so I'm higher and then zoom back.
I was able to see you very well when we did our test, but now you're super zoomed in.
Let me get another cushion and then I can push the laptop back a bit.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good. Um, okay, guys, so backwards pawns being the theme of the day, we can also think about black maybe putting just a rook here on b4 at some point, right? They could just put a rook here and argue, your b4 pawn, your b3 pawn is going to be weak. If you put pieces on b2 and b1, then a4 could become like a threat. You also only see half of his name. I know.
How are we getting on with my head now?
It's better. I'm just gonna crop your camera so we can see better.
Yes.
But don't worry too much about it. Are you able to see the boards okay that I have screen sharing to you?
Oh, yeah, see, my name's partly disappeared as well.
Oh, that's not a big deal. You're kind of getting cut off there now. Yeah. No. You're taking it the wrong way.
I'll sit still.
Is there any way you could take it more to the right? Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, cool.
I wouldn't want to look at my big head like that, but
You're sure that this is the new webcam?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
just tested it.
Okay, no worries. Maybe it's just the technology, how the technology is feeling today. So I was just talking about this position on board 1 between Bobby Cheng and Marcos Collados, and how after these like potential trades on c5, we could get like some kind of pressure on the b3 pawn after kind of like knight after like knight takes, b takes, and then like b3. That maybe this would be like a long-term weakness.
Yeah, it feels very comfortable for black. I mean,
right.
Vaguely like a sort of Bogo Indian, and it feels like white hasn't got the extra pieces that you would like with the space. And it's black deciding probably when to break with f5 or even with a4. So yeah, black can be happy with the position, certainly.
But what about a move like f5? Do you think that black would just change over and play on the king side instead? Like, I guess this queenside stuff is quite static. Like white can't really push that b pawn, so it's going to be there for a while. So maybe, do you think?
Yeah, white's only pawn break is f4, which seems like it's probably quite weakening. So yeah, it feels like white's waiting to see what black's going to do.
Because I figured that's obviously, you know, the whole point why we've played g6 is to like have the option to play f5 and have nice support of our rook if we play rook takes. This is the position we have on the board. Actually, we'll just go back, and black is thinking. So I just put bishop c8 on the board before to look at this kind of transformation, because that is the top engine move. But of course, it's not the only move that you can play here. You can just play f5 right away, right?
Yeah.
What would you do, Lawrence?
I mean, I suppose after f5, you've got to consider if bishop h3 is a slight annoyance, but I suspect not. But the bishop on f1 is really quite bad, so even the chance to move it to h3 would be a slight, perhaps, gain. Another thought I've got, which is maybe just with an eye on their ratings, is black. If black just say sits on the position, it's not really clear what white can do. So it'd be interesting to see how ambitious black is. Because I feel black should be. I don't know if black's much better, but black's certainly very comfortable. But how ambitious do they want to be? It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a good point, because of course Bobby Cheng is the top seed, and when you're playing against the higher rated opponents, if you have a really comfortable position and your opponent doesn't really have clear choices, you can always just tell them, you know, like, what are you gonna do, right? We can maybe, we've seen a4. Okay, so we've seen a4. So it looks like the knight c5 idea is probably quite likely. I mean, you do really want to get rid of this really strong knight, don't you?
Yes, you do. Although by taking on c5, you are giving black the b file. So
yeah, definitely, it's a compromise either way, right? If you play a move like knight to d2, then this knight is just super strong, and this pawn has to be babysat. But I also, yeah.
I'm just trying to think, if you don't take on c5, is there any? There's no real decent route into the game for the knight. I mean, even something very slow like knight to a1 to c2 to b4, then the bishop can just drop back to b7. You're never getting into c6. So
yeah, because you just lose material.
Yeah, so it's yeah, I'm just trying to find. I mean, the only pawn break I see is f4 for white. It's just because of the ratings, I'm thinking, is white going to be just happy to sit and grovel around, which objectively may be the best approach.
So you're saying that you probably would take on c5?
I think, yeah.
Kind of try and hold the position. I guess that, yeah.
I'm
Sorry,
not
go
really
ahead.
happy with any choices here, but maybe knight. I mean, if knight d2 perhaps makes more sense, because I don't think we have to worry about black going b5, because then we get rid of our bad bishop and we get the c4 square for the knight.
Right, so this kind of thing, we would actually be quite happy to go
Yeah,
here.
I think
Yeah.
black shouldn't do that, because then this is certainly an improvement. Even if I've just allowed knight b3 to d4, I think even then this is still, why should black allow this? So yeah, if we go back, I suppose. But even here, say after, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Well, I was
Here.
going to say, even if I'd gone rook d1 and sat the exchange on d4, I'd still be happier with that than the previous position.
Right. Yeah, I guess practically speaking, like this is a bit simpler, because now if black ever wants to actually win b2, they're probably going to have to sack the exchange back. Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessary to sack the exchange, but even this, I would feel happier than what we had before b5.
Okay. And I guess that this is actually quite an interesting way of doing it instead of bishop to c8, because now if we do go for the transformation, you don't have that b3. Well, you can play b3, but it does kind of, I guess.
I mean,
yeah, actually,
because they can't play a3 because we round up the a pawn.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna take it.
Probably holdable for white, isn't it? So yeah, just rook a1 there would.
A look at board 2, because I know that you're very knowledgeable about Stanley, and he's.
It's recent knowledge. He sort of appeared on the scene in the last couple of years.
Right, and so he played this knight takes e4 move we were talking about earlier, which allowed this bishop h2 sacrifice, and this is exactly what was played on the board. King takes queen h4 check, just taking the piece back with an extra, taking the e-pawn, and now after rook takes c4, you're ending up with this this d-pawn left in the middle. We have knight e6, like why not? We're just attacking the pawn instantly, and bishop to e3 to defend. And we're now making, a game of just trying to pile up on the pawn, which makes perfect sense. And black allows white to capture on a7.
That did surprise me slightly. I mean, but maybe there's a good follow-up.
Yeah, because I would be quite happy to trade a7 for d4, right? Because d4 is isolated. It's probably going to fall if we get to an endgame anyway. And actually, it's really interesting that the engine here just wanted rook e1 and wasn't really as keen on this bishop e3 idea. I guess you can blockade the pawn.
Yeah, this looks more natural because the bishop on e3 is quite horrible. But
yeah, it's like a tall pawn, right? Yeah. And now like b3, which is a bit funny, but it does the job. Like it serves its purpose of defending the rook. But yeah, this position we have is completely different. And I guess rook c2 is being threatened, but not like always have to be careful about the back rank. I guess there's always rook d8, but
I mean, is there any sort of crude? Is it too crude just to? I don't know. It feels like maybe as black got some initiative, is queen h4, rook h5 is probably just too crude, but or maybe even f5, f4. There's some alternatives.
So like rook e1 and just like going for this.
It feels like if they've given up a7, there must be more. Okay, so it's definitely not queen h4, but to give up a7, there must be a concrete reason.
Yeah, this is really interesting though, that it's actually very important that the queen controls this, because otherwise you are just getting attacked. Yeah. Other options, I guess, like rook e1, even though it's our top engine move right now, I think it feels like, uh, I mean, you have a very clear idea that you can move the bishop with a tempo on the queen, but it's
I think as
not.
well, rook e1, it's useful that the king's then got f1 in
Yeah,
case
that's true
black
as
does
well.
ever do anything threatening. So, and it's sort of putting the rook on a potentially half open file. So yeah. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised they gave up a7 unless there's a concrete reason.
Mm. And now we have rook e1 played, so this is the top engine move and it's been played. So I would be afraid of playing Stanley personally. Even, even though obviously he's a significantly better player than me, like the fact that he's such a strong junior is always going to be stressful.
Yeah,
If
I've
you're
only played him. I played him in a blitz tournament. And it's like a 3-2 time control OTB. And I don't know, the first part of the game, I was sort of better position, felt quite comfortable. But then when you get down to like a few seconds each, he was just amazing. It was like just a transformation. I mean, I'm obviously old, but I'm an okay blitz player. But yeah, when we're down to seconds each, it was just like he was incredible. It's
Yeah, kids are just too good at blitz. They love it as well. They seem to much prefer it to classical,
yeah.
which I just simply cannot relate to.
Well, I can actually because my concentration span is better for blitz.
Mm.
But yeah,
Uh,
I was impressed with him. Let's just say.
should we take a look at this game? I think we can board 4. Boris, Chatalbashev, and Yang Fan Zhou.
Yeah, Yang Fan,
Um,
another 4 NCL player of mine. So yeah, I know
okay, so
him
you can
well.
tell us all about them.
Yeah, well, he took quite a break from chess. I mean, he got his first 2 GM norms. I think one when he was, I don't know, late teens. It was in an all play all I ran in I think 2013. Then he got his second norm in about 2015 or 16 in the 4 NCL. But round about COVID, he then just stopped playing. So he's only really started playing again in the last 6 months. He also streams on Twitch as well. I think it's YF Chess, just to give him a quick plug. But yeah, he's someone that we probably expected to have become a GM a long time ago.
Right,
But
but he took a
hopefully
big
he
break.
will. Now he's back playing again. He'll do it. So he needs one more norm and still quite a big chunk of rating because he needs to get to 2500.
Yeah.
Um,
Shall we go back to the beginning of this game and just see how
yeah,
we got to where we are?
this has been quite a
Um,
difficult game for him, I think.
right. I mean,
Computers don't like the King's Indian, so you can see already it's edging up, isn't it? Even though we're
yeah, but computers love space. So
yeah,
like
exactly.
any opening where you're gonna give white all the space, computer is gonna think it's basically white's game. But I think the King's Indian, like this tournament, I've seen quite a few of them, but I haven't seen a King's Indian where black did well black did well out of the opening, and
Yeah,
I really would like to see one this tournament where black gets this really killer kingside attack and gets exactly what they want.
yeah. If you're a
But
King's Indian player, the sort of recent times haven't been kind to have it. All the engines are just showing, yeah, white's got a big space advantage. They're not going to get mated, and
yeah, but
yeah,
the engines were saying the same thing about the French, and then in the Welsh Championship we're seeing the French again.
yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's a fighting opening, isn't it? You're accepting you've got less space, but then quite often if you get a kingside attack, if the attack breaks through, it's mate. If white attacks breaks through on the queen side, you win a couple of pawns. So you're not really playing for the
The same
same
stakes.
stakes. So,
Yeah, that's true. So here we've got d5, knight g4 with the tempo on this bishop, bishop to g5. And then f6. So basically just baiting to make this bishop a little bit worse. I guess black is not super happy to have to play f6 and then f5 later.
Yeah, it's sort of the lesser evil. There's no ideal answer to bishop g5.
Right.
But yeah, f6 is okay because the knight will probably drop back to h6 and then f7 in some positions.
Right,
So
and then it's
the
the
lesser
supporter
evil.
of these pushes then as well, right?
Mm.
So you can play f5 immediately, and then I guess you have this little dance of the bishop coming back and then forth, and this is exactly what we had. The bishop coming back to g5. And we have
I think
bishop,
Yang Pan's
knight back.
always played the King's Indian, so he is very experienced with it. But yeah,
Right. It always
it's
helps
quite
to be
hard.
very comfortable with your openings.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing someone higher rated or a grandmaster, especially. You want to have a familiar position. Okay, so we have knight back to f6, and then e takes f5, and a bishop takes f5 with a tempo on the queen. So do you know, this is really interesting. I've never played the King's Indian myself, but I feel like I actually quite like black's position now after these changes, and the engine is actually even more in white's favor. But I actually think that it's not so bad. I don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to weigh it up. I mean, I guess ideally I would like to have taken with the G pawn on f5, but on the other hand, the bishop's on f5, the knight comes to c5. You've got some central control. I'm a bit worried about the d6 pawn being weak.
Yes, after yeah.
And with the queen on d2, black can't expand with h6. So
yes, this is also true.
I mean, the next few moves are quite critical, aren't they? For is white just clearly better, or does black have some counterplay?
Right, so we have knight to c5 immediately, as you
Yeah.
said, and b4, so kicking the knight out. Okay, takes, and now exactly having this backwards pawn on d6.
Yeah.
Rook e1, and
Well,
pushing
okay, at
b5.
least on a good day, black has some hope for central push, even if the pawns are a bit exposed as well.
And b5. So this is yeah.
So yeah, white's just trying to completely shatter the centre.
Right. Right. So this is the move that the engine is critical of. Queen to b7. Because it allows obviously this passed pawn to survive and to be an annoyance in black's camp now for potentially some time. Can
you just go back to on the plate?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand. I mean, you want to break the pin.
Yeah, of course.
Once you move the queen, at least the knight can move. You're perhaps thinking, well, d6 may come. Yeah, I'm wondering where the queen belongs. Is it useful on d6, or is that just like sort of a job that another piece should be doing, blockading the pawn? So yeah, I mean, I'm not looking at engines, so I'm just trying to think for myself what I would play. I'm not so worried about the b5 pawn at the moment because I would take on f3, but it feels like and where do you want your rooks? Do you want them on? It feels like one rook belongs on d8. Right, I suppose there's one thing to mention. Yeah, I mean, that feels like there will at least be play for black there.
Yeah.
You can't play bishop takes d5 because the bishop takes f6. So I think it feels like a rook belongs on the d file, but then yeah, I would have thought it's either rook to d8. What does the engine say to that? Probably laughs at me, but
No, so actually your two candidate moves are the two top engine moves. So queen to d6 and rook 8, so rook a to
That
d8
does
are the two.
surprise me. Someone who's got no feel for King's Indian at all.
Well, it makes sense because I guess the move that Yang Fan played does allow d6, right? Whereas even if we don't want the queen to ever be a blockader, really, we are physically stopping d6 from being played.
Yeah.
So we can always make this just a temporary fix, get some rooks here on the d file, and I guess move the queen after. But it's not like a move anyone wants to play, right? You don't want your queen to ever be the blockader. And I guess there's something that Stanley didn't like about this move. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he didn't like bishop takes b5, and he thought that having the queen on b7 kind of covered everything. Sorry, that's that's not how the queen moves. But so it covers here, and then we have this kind of like pressure, right, with the queen and the bishop on this long diagonal. So I think it does make sense, right?
Yeah.
On a human level, why you'd want to have this,
I mean,
because it
you're
seems like it does both.
covering b5, and
Yeah.
you perhaps want the rook hitting d5 rather than the queen. But yeah, it doesn't seem like the ideal square for the queen, I must admit.
Yeah, and so we had d6 immediately because you can. And then bishop to c6, preventing any more pushing happening. Rook to c1, rook to c8, rook to d1, and now knight to e4 with this tempo on the queen and double attack on the bishop. So I mean, obviously now you can
I'm quite shocked to see how high the eval is. I mean, I would say, yeah, White's better, clearly better, but that's more or less just saying he's winning with the d pawn, I guess.
Yeah, the engine is very much in favor of White's position. I guess these rooks are really nice. You have rook behind your pass pawn, which you're always wanting. But you can't.
I guess the issue is if you took on g5,
right?
Maybe you can just take with a knight and
now you're worried about
probably too slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just helped White, hasn't it? So yeah.
Yeah. And actually,
I guess if you look at
what we have on the board. So this is played now, and it's a tricky position now for Black.
Yeah, it's just I say I'm a bit shocked at how high the eval is, but yeah, it's
right because
the King's Indian.
I guess knight e6 is coming no matter what you do. So
and presumably, if bishop h6, we're probably just going queen. Are we going queen b3 check? Because bishop h6 is a sort of move you would like to play, but I know we can't play that, can we? Because we've got, well, rook takes, I guess, against that. I think we have to king
rook
h.
Takes, rook take, rook.
Oh, sorry, by accident, work.
No, but actually the engine is still in White's favor here, even after this. So it's very interesting, right?
That's quite fortunate that I blundered a rook on c1, but can win it back. But okay, so after bishop h6, then what was how did I lose all the white advantage?
Well here.
Oh, just queen b3 isn't the move then.
Yeah, exactly. So h4 is possible, and now you can just move the queen anytime, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can also get a tempo, I guess, on this rook here.
I was thinking the bishop was doing so little on g7, putting on h6 improves things, but then I guess c5 is weak and it's still horrible, isn't it?
This has to be something you calculate here, right? Because you're afraid of knight e6, so you take and then you have to look at like that, which looks uncomfy.
Yeah.
For sure. This looks very scary now. Although there doesn't seem to be anything concrete, I guess we're threatening to take on e5 with check.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly say, okay, yeah, obviously black's in trouble, but I'm still quite shocked at how much trouble. But yeah, okay, here I suppose fair enough. E5 is dropping, D7 is coming, and yeah, okay, yeah, this is pretty horrific.
Yeah, I think just saying that knight e6 is coming is enough to feel a bit scared in this position. Yeah. And so I guess what do you play?
Struggling to. I mean, bishop h6 is the only thing that was even remotely appealing. I mean, I might even consider king h8 just so I'm getting out of the sort of the threat of, you know, a queen b3. But I mean, obviously that's just not really helping the position at all either.
Yeah, it's not a nice position, and I'll see the engine says bishop f6, so it's clearly not very happy.
Okay. But yeah, that's.
I guess just
yeah. I suppose what else?
And then,
yeah.
And then I mean, it doesn't even try to save the rook.
Yeah, it's all very grim, isn't it?
Not fun, for sure.
So
maybe let's.
Sorry, can we just quickly go back to before Queen b7? I mean, how bad was it giving the position for what? When Black played Queen b7, just go back.
Right.
Just
Here, so
see how the eval was.
It's almost equal if you can find Queen d6.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
So basically, it's this point where it starts to go wrong.
Yeah, this is when things go south. Yeah. Because you allow the pawn, and I guess this also just opens up all the light squares to the king as well, and.
So Queen b7 is a step in the wrong direction, and then it pretty much from here it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. This seems to be the beginning of the end. But I mean, like I said before, it makes a lot of sense on a human level, like on a positional level. But I guess it's just that Black's king is a lot less safe than it looks.
I suppose it shows how accurate Black has to be in these types of positions, because it's not like he's been blundering anything. He's just playing suboptimal moves, and that's
this is
just
like his only inaccurate move, really, that he's played. So it's very tough. We could take a very cursory glance at Mr. Dodgy's game if you're
why not?
up for that. Whilst we're here,
I'm quite happy to turn away from
this is not him. So let's go to Mr. Dodgy, and looks like he is completely winning. So let's see how we got here. Let's go back. So I'm not sure if you saw before, we had this Queen's Indian defense from Black. And Black has nice bishops.
This is all okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Slight space for White.
We again end up getting the double fianchetto, and this is around where we left off last time I looked at the game. We did look at this, and we got to knight takes c5. So Amelia and I were talking in depth about this crazy engine analysis that to have a little edge you take here on f6, and there is basically like 10 moves where maybe White might get an edge at the end. But Mr. Dodgy decided to take on c5 immediately because, I mean, it's very forcing, right? You have to play b takes c because queen takes, then you're gonna like get
Yeah.
checkmated. So definitely you have this weakness on an a5, and then he played knight to e4, and I mean, this knight is a very good defender of the king.
I mean, long term, the pawns on a5 and c5, they're not so bad, you know, and black may at the right moment be able to push a4 and create some weaknesses. So
yeah,
not
this
too
is true, and you can also get a rook maybe on the b file, and b3 is not.
Yeah,
not
I
the
mean,
best
why
pawn.
would I suppose white doesn't really want the pawn on a3 now because yeah, this seems all right for what for black to me.
Yeah, and so we have these trades in the center, and d5 with a tempo on the queen. So big pushback for space, and we have c takes and e takes and a queen trade.
I feel like
well, this is a completely different position.
yeah, that seems to have helped white a lot. I'm not sure d5 was right because
yeah, and now we can put our rooks here, and these pawns, you have to be very careful with the structure to not blunder
the bishops look nice. The only weakness white has is b3, but yeah. Can we just go back to instead of d5? I'm just wondering if there was something different.
Yeah, so here, I mean, you're not forced to play d5, are you? You can even play d6 if you just want to.
Yeah, I'm even wondering just maybe rook b8, just sort of eyeing b3 and possibly threatening some knight discovery. Is that too slow, or but rook b8 here looks quite natural.
Actually, rook b8 is one of the top engine moves, and it makes total sense, right? You're just preparing a discovery on the queen.
Yeah, and you're eyeing the b3 pawn, which is certainly a weakness.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas d5 is opening up the position, and the bishop pair should probably benefit from that. So, anyway, let's see how he increased his advantage.
Yeah, so we're ending up putting our rooks here to attack these pawns. Totally makes sense. And then king to f7 and a4. Rook to c7 and bishop to c3. So I mean, this is very concrete, right? We're just a4, we're stopping this pawn from being pushed, we're just going after it. So now rook to a8, and Dodgy is just hoping, I guess, that one of these pawns he's going to be able to scoop it up.
Yeah, just nice for white.
This is brave. This is a brave king. I mean, I know there are no queens on the board, but it's still a pretty brave king, right?
Well, he's perhaps eyeing a sort of a king of the hill sort of.
Just add another defender to the pawns. Why not? And bishop to f4. Okay, nice tempo on the rook. Rook c6. I mean, I don't think we want our rook to be blocking this, but
no, I mean as white, I would be very happy black hadn't taken time to play rook b8 or bishop a6 and at least try and probe our weaknesses. It feels like white's just had a free hand to.
It feels like black is just reacting, right, to white's moves. Okay, so h4, but maybe g5 can still be played, right? So,
well, it's just gaining a bit of space as well. So
yeah.
Don't want that.
ac8, bishop d2, just saying that if you really do give up on your pawn, I will just take it.
yeah.
And back. And maybe black is very hopeful here that white will repeat moves, but it's not going to happen.
No,
and
I would hope not.
Bishop h3 check. f5. And bishop
f4. Forcing f5 is, as black played f5, that's a gain for white, I think, definitely.
And so it engine doesn't like bishop to e3, and says, why not just put the bishop back on g2 where it was before you've served your purpose. Yeah, which is definitely possible, but I guess you're just making very direct threats, right? Every move dodgy is just attacking a pawn, right?
Yeah.
There's no big master plan behind it. And now c4 takes. And this is a DGT error.
Yeah, so probably took on
So
c4. Would he have taken on c4?
so this is not the real position. So when we came into this thinking that Mr. Dodgy was up a rook, I think in fact we just have a broken DGT board, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I'll give
So
him the benefit of the doubt there that he.
I mean, we probably have a position like this, I guess. And I think immediately I like this because we're threatening to win
Yeah.
a pawn, right? And we're threatening also to bring the rook if we want to.
Yeah, rook
And
d6 is definitely. Yeah. I thought there must be
yeah.
a concrete reason why you're taking on c4, and yeah, this does seem quite convincing.
Rook d6 is nice. Funny thing is the engine doesn't bring it up at all in any of its lines.
Yeah, I was just comparing the assessment to
Yeah.
Yang Fan's position, and I'm amazed
E11.
at how bad his position was, and I'm a bit surprised that it's not giving White more here.
Yeah, and here it's just 0-0. But I mean, White is obviously the happier when they have all the activity. The king is not happy for black, and you're gonna round up this pawn hopefully on c4 sometime soon. But unfortunately, this means that we actually don't have the position and we don't have a camera. So
Okay.
we actually don't know, and
We can
probably
move on with a
won't.
clear conscience
We
then.
won't ever know. I mean, maybe there's some suspicious other site where I can check if he has his game
Yeah.
correctly, being shown correctly. But I'm not sure how to do that actually. I don't know how to. So
I'll have a quick look.
yeah, that would be nice. Thank you. So whilst Lawrence is looking for the follow-up moves to this position, I will take you guys over to Alexandra Prado. And I have her board, her camera here. And so this is where we left off. She had quite an unpleasant position in Sicilian Dragon against the Maroczy Bind. And we had castles. Sorry, I just switched over to Alexandra Prado.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's the same anyway on the other side.
Okay, so it's just broken. I guess we'll just leave that.
Yeah,
for now, then.
this position is tough, isn't it, for black?
Yeah, and so I'm very curious to see kind of what she did. And she played in this position queen to d7, which also just, I mean, these pieces feel so congested and glued.
Yeah.
It feels like they're stuck in glue, right?
I suppose you're reluctant to sort of retreat, like moving the knight back to c6 or the bishop to d7, but maybe objectively that's what you should be doing.
Yeah, it's very
just
hard
to exchange. And
yeah, I'm curious to see how this went. We've got about almost 10 more moves. And we have b3, which is very normal defending our pawn, and queen b7. And now, okay, we have a mistake from White. So White decides to double.
Not really what you want to do.
Right, exactly, because this knight is beautiful. This knight on d5 is probably like the best piece on the board. And yeah, you give black doubled pawns, but now where's your knight going? And I mean knight to f4, but this is possible to defend.
I'd still rather be White, but not quite so much.
Yeah. And now rook d1 and g5. Okay, this is a brave move, g5.
Yeah.
Yeah. This,
Sadly, I
interesting.
think it's really just too weakening. I can
Yeah.
understand, yeah, you want to do something active, but I don't think it's going to end well.
So G5, knight D3,
Yeah.
and now knight takes D3 is played.
Yeah.
Queen takes D3 and H6 to stop this pawn from being captured. Definitely do feel like we have the significantly weaker king now
I'm
with
definitely,
no
E5 definitely
and
feels like it's in the air and possibly the queen coming to G6. I don't know if
right.
it's right
And
to do it yet.
it's played. You're totally right.
I
And
mean,
actually,
that's the first move you would look at, certainly.
yeah. And it's funny because White has played this game incredibly well. And the only move really where they made a bad move was where they spent a lot of time. So this knight takes E6
Yeah.
move, they spent 20 minutes thinking about it. And they didn't really spend any long thinks other than this in the game. Which is quite curious. I mean, they've got a couple pass move. They spent kind of like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but they really just spend 20 minutes and then make this suspicious kind of trade. But I guess even though this position is really miserable for black, it's kind of also just weird, right? So you're trying to figure out how to play it, even though you're white, because there's, like I said, not a lot of space for the pieces to move around in. So yeah, so this is where we're at with E5. We have a question in the chat asking, do they get extra time? No, there will not be any extra time. And so Alexandra Prado, who is now playing on 2.5 minutes, will be playing the rest of her game on low time. So E5, of course, cannot be captured. The queen would hang, and we wouldn't want to do that anyway because we would have a pawn conga line. Knight to E8.
Yeah, I was just trying to I suppose it has to be E8, so D6 is defended, but
this is it feels like a violation, right, of the position. Like the queen is on G6. There is no way you can be happy here. Oh, horrible.
well,
Absolutely horrible.
From the games we've looked at, whenever Black Finchetto's a G7 bishop, they're really suffering today, aren't they? We saw Yang Fan having a tough time, and yeah, this is. I mean, I don't know what advice I'd give to. It feels like I mean, I know she's a strong player. She's played in Olympiads, but she hasn't looked comfortable in this type of position. I think that's fair to say.
No, I agree. I think she's really struggled with the Sicilians so far this tournament.
I think her strength is activity, from what I remember of her.
Yeah, she loves to attack. She loves
if
to
you
attack.
gave her the white position, she would be very happy.
Yeah, I mean, most people would like the white position, but yeah, no, absolutely. From what I remember about Alexandra, is she loves to attack, and from what I've learned from Alexandra throughout this competition is she does not like to defend. So Michael Fernandez in chat saying, would rook f5 be anything? It's funny, I wanted to look at this move as well, right? Because thinking, can we grab this? Can we get some kind of attack here? Maybe. And
it feels like, what else? At least you're threatening something, yeah.
Yeah. But then I would think immediately, I mean, and this is what's played, what I would think immediately is this move is bishop d3, because anytime the rook moves is like, this is looking a bit awkward. So rook takes e5 is played. And I guess there is just simply no follow-up.
Black's position is bad enough. I would happily just try this and just hope for the best, you know.
Yeah, I mean, now you can play bishop to d4.
I don't really mind. If I lose an exchange as black, I can live with that. It's just if I lose everything, which may well happen.
Right.
I mean,
it's not fun though, because I don't see a world where we get to recapture this with anything other than the d pawn.
Yeah, yeah. Even moving the king. If you move the king, then h6 would be dropping the check if you were to take back with the bishop. Yeah, it's just horrible, isn't it? Sadly, you can't really move the queen because probably e6 will hang, and
yeah, it's a very miserable position to play. and bishop d4 is on the board. So Alexandra, with less than a minute now, looking for a move to play here, and she's hovering.
I mean, even if you try, say, rook ac5, white can probably just play b4 and kick that away. So it's I don't know what move to even suggest.
And she's played queen c7.
Yeah.
So I think.
So at the very least, you can take on e5, take on e6. There maybe I don't know if there's anything better, but
Oh, this is very creative. If this is what she's going for, because now she can play
queen c5.
Queen c5, and she can take back with the queen. But then is there a queen c5 and like bishop here, and then now you're taking, and your queen is kind of their discoveries? But I guess you get an extra tempo, so it's not worth it.
I think what white would probably play is king h1 and then hit queen e5 with rook e1.
Yeah. But then maybe you can play queen f6 and you can just hope to survive the...
Yeah, I mean, it may just be you have to try and survive.
Yeah. I actually think that this... I know that the eval is not on our side, but this looks so much more manageable, right?
Yeah, especially with no time. Yeah, I would happily take this from what she had.
Exactly. If she can simplify down to this, even though she's down in exchange, it's much more playable position with low time. But it's not. I
mean, I think probably white would have probably taken with the bishop on g6 if that was possible at the end there. When you played rook takes g6.
Oh, sorry.
I imagine probably bishop just to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I think so too. Otherwise, king f7 is possible. Yeah.
I mean, it's a clear exchange, but at least you're not getting mated. I think that's about all we can say, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess white can go for this and just argue that you suck.
It's going to be a win, isn't it?
I think so, especially with this time advantage. But I really do applaud her. This queen c7 move is a very creative move to find in time trouble. And it's actually really interesting because I didn't even see any possibility of anything other than d takes. So it's very cool. Maybe we go back to board one now after it's been a while.
Yeah, because I mean,
so here
probably managed to improve his position. Oh.
Yeah, here we have a lot of moves. We have 12 moves since we last, since we talked about g6. And so we were here, and actually after a4, knight takes c5 was played. So this is...
Okay.
This was played, and b3. And yeah, I actually think that b3 here is better than b3 without a4, right? And instead of taking... I've lost the camera. Annoying. Instead of taking back, just rook to b4. B takes a, and rook f to b8. I guess if you try to take, then is this stressful? Like, I'm not sure why you wouldn't just take.
Should be okay. I mean, I suppose white is getting some activity. Yeah, actually, this is better for white than I thought it would be. The activity is perhaps more important than c4 being a slight weakness and the bishop on f1 not being a great piece.
Yeah, and this bishop is so bad, right? On a6, this is really not a good piece.
It's what I thought was what I thought was the better bishop. Actually, doesn't have much. Yeah, maybe the f1 bishop isn't worse at all. Actually,
well, can you play something really crazy like h4, king h2, bishop h3, and try to improve your bishop that way?
Yeah, or maybe you don't need to. Maybe the bishop on a6 is a tactical weakness now with the b and a file open.
Yeah. So this wasn't played anyway. So just rook fb8 and a5. So making it harder to scoop up the pawn. Rook b2 and h4. Oh, will he play the... No, he didn't. Oh, he did play what I said.
Because you may also be going h5, and then black's getting slightly worried about his king.
Yeah, okay, so king g7.
For lots of reasons.
And h5 does come. Okay, yeah, so this is exciting. And
black's still got to get that pawn back. So.
It's funny because last time we left off this game, we were like saying how good black's position was. And now, like 3 or 4 moves later, white has clearly turned it around and has a much nicer, much more comfortable position.
Yeah, so either my assessment was completely wrong, or it feels like black's gone a bit wrong as well, having given up the pawn. And
yeah, I feel a bit suspicious about the pawn, mainly because I'm afraid of passed pawns. But
I mean, maybe with hindsight, a4 wasn't the best because but you know, it seemed natural to sort of force white to either take or retreat, but it did allow white the b3 option. So yeah.
So now you can play h6 check, but Bobby did not play h6.
No, check. I think you want to keep it in reserve and just keep the tension.
So instead, queen to f3, because now the f6 pawn is a bit of a...
And also you're keeping the black queen out of g4, which is useful.
Yeah, this is really nice. Bishop c8. Okay, so now renewing this possibility.
And possibly rook a8 and try and get the a pawn back. But
yeah, so now threatening to push the a pawn. Queen a7. So why queen a7 and why not just like rook a8?
I suppose black wants to keep the doubled rooks on the b file.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess you don't want to trade, right? You don't want to trade queens, so
yeah, I mean, at least with the rook on b8, there's maybe rook b1 ideas. But
yes, yeah, this is also true. So queen a7 and now king h2 to go for this idea. So my idea is maybe happening, but my idea was bad. The engine doesn't like it.
No, let's say your idea was good, but he's played it in the wrong position. That's the way I prefer it.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, move order is very important. Something that Bobby Cheng would do well to remember.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does make sense because now actually this bishop is not the worst piece. I guess these bishops are both bad, right? So okay, queen a6, stopping this pawn from being pushed any further, saying that you know, I can bring my rook in and put more pressure on.
It's not the job for a queen though, is it? It was like with Yang Fan when I was suggesting queen d6, but here the queen on a6 just seems it's not the right
thing. It's funny, you know, how when you're commentating rounds, these repeated ideas just seem to somehow pop up. Like queens blockading pieces, queens blockading pawns is something that we've only talked about today, but we've talked about it more than once. So it's interesting. So bishop to h3, now trying to trade off the bishop.
Yeah.
Takes, and this rook b1 idea that you mentioned. So actually black is happy to trade off pieces, apparently. And this is the current position on the board. So
I mean,
crazy that this black, is +5.
I'd be quite worried about the white queen coming in via g4 to e6. That's another headache to worry about.
Yeah, this is also very reasonable, and if this queen moves, then the black position really will fall apart here. So you know how we talked about leaving this pawn on h6? The engine has been screaming h6 at me to try and bait the king here.
I think now, because king f7. Okay, yeah, you could consider that, but I assumed it was
now,
going to end badly.
I guess you have to take here first, obviously, otherwise you lose material, and then you can take
Okay, so
here.
if you take on B1 and take on F6, if we take on C4, is there some like puzzle rush mate with Queen F8? And it feels like
there is. There's mate in 7.
Oh, I certainly wasn't going to be that confident about it. But yeah, it feels like... how do we do this, though?
We just give all of the possible available checks. This is what we learn from Puzzle Rush, is you keep giving checks until you run out of checks to give. G5, King H5, King H7, and we have this beautiful...
yeah, mate on H4, yeah.
Yeah, wow. This if this happened on the board, I would be mind blown. I don't think this will happen on the board. You never see mate on the board in these high-level games. It's like they're too proud.
Yeah, they'd always resign and move before mate, won't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so apparently you just simply cannot take this. But honestly, like, do you play this? I guess you have to, because otherwise Queen F1 is stressful, maybe.
So where are we up to in the live position?
So live position, we just have this rook b1. So what we were talking about is if h6 happens. If h6 doesn't happen and you just trade, you still have good position, and you can always play this other move order and h6 now, or you can just not play h6 as well. But h6 is by far the engine's overwhelming preference. And I think that's why it hated this f6 push so much. And the position, it's like a deflection technique, right? Let the queen infiltrate.
Yeah, just leaving the pawn on h5, it's quite, for black, it's always hanging over him, and you're having to check h6, check every move. And
yeah. This would be nice. I'd love to see h6 check from Bobby. He's been finding some very nice tactics in his past couple of games when his opponents have...
I mean, he's really outplayed black from what I thought was a slightly worse position. I thought once he took on c5, there was no way white could be better, but very quickly. But I guess he took on a4 and black never got the pawn back. So, yeah. Yeah,
this is true. And even if you don't see this crazy h6 stuff, you still have that comfortable advantage. Like, even if you play a move that does like effectively nothing, like you still have like +2 from the engine. So even if you're completely like unaware of any possible attacks, you still are just comfortably up a pawn, a passed pawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this is cool. Maybe we go and look at Yang Fan, because this game
just
like
quickly
could
check
end.
what's happening with Stanley, or is Yang Fan?
Stanley. So they've made a draw. So yeah, we can just very quickly look at this, because
so allowing the capture on a7 was probably just wrong then, was it? Because I'm sure black had a comfortable position.
Yeah, I think maybe it was not the right way to go. And now white is just keeping offering queen trades. Okay, so rook to c2, and we're just offering all the trades.
Now there's even like, it's their ideas of... Oh, okay, he just did that. Yeah, I was wondering if there's ideas of rook c8, king h7, rook c8, because of the... But yeah, okay, no, it's nonsense, because the queen's defended on f5. Forget that.
Okay.
So yeah, what he did is just much simpler without losing a rook.
Okay, so rook a8 check, consolidating the pieces, giving the pawn.
Yeah, I'd still be a little bit worried about his h3 coming in, but yeah.
Right, but I guess here, because you're forcing the queen trade, we look at this position. I don't know. It depends who you are and if you want to try to play this out or not. But I guess if you're a Stanley, you're happy with the draw against like the second seed or something. And
I feel like he got off quite lightly from... I felt he should have been suffering, but I'm quite pleased that he didn't suffer.
Stanley?
White just more or less seemed happy to liquidate.
Yeah, and look at this clocker advantage that Stanley had here. He was up 20 minutes against
Yeah.
Sebastian. And in the past couple of rounds, this has kind of been the opposite. Sebastian's been the one pushing his opponents on the clock, and he seems to be kind of waiting for his opponents to get into time trouble and make those blunders. And then I guess he's seeing Stanley just blast out the moves, and he realizes there's no way that's happening against this kid. He's not gonna blunder in this rook and pawn ending.
I'm also very happy Stanley's got the draw, because the players playing in my all play all that are also playing here, I'm wanting them to like gain rating, because that's then good for the norms, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But he's gaining a load from last weekend's 4 NCL, and here I think he's gaining at least 20 more points. So
yeah, he's won 5 out of 6. He's plus 22 right now. Performance
and
rating of 24.41.
I know he beat an IM at the 4 NCL as well. So yeah, he's
and he beat an IM here in round 4 as well.
Yes, that's right.
So he hasn't lost a game so far in this tournament, which is pretty crazy. Very impressive. Shall we look at board 4 with Yang Fan? He's
let's
playing
see
on increment now. So we were here, weren't we, with knight takes g5 and bishop to h6. So your move was played. This is your idea. And bishop to g4 was also played. So this is the top engine line. Bishop to d7, stopping any bishop e6 checks.
Lost.
And queen to b3 check now. And this looks a bit uncomfortable, doesn't it? So giving up the giving up the exchange and or no, you have two
briefly
pieces for the
getting,
rook.
but d7 is coming, presume.
Oh yes, d7.
No,
Okay, so this is the this is the position. This is horrible.
It's horrible, but it's almost like maybe it's as good as he could get. I mean, I think we have to take the bishop, and then they have to take with the queen, and because of the background issue.
And this is what we have on the board.
Yeah.
So
I guess we have to take that, and we presumably lose the ending. Lesses anyway. I can't believe you can really keep the queens on, because White will just make room for his king, and then the rook will come down. So
yeah, it feels like you get checkmated here if you try and play like.
But if we swap, we lose at least the a pawn.
Yeah. But like this feels like this is a big threat, right? Okay, so Stockfish telling me now we have mate 9. So I guess maybe you have to play bishop f8, but even then you're not very happy.
Yeah, maybe you just, I don't know. But you assume that after, say, a move like g3, rook d7 will come and be very, very painful.
Okay, queen takes d7 is on the board, so...
Can we try...
Oh, and we've got a DGT errors. Oh no. Okay, so I'm not sure how much more we'll get of this game because okay, so this is the position. Okay,
another one bites the dust. Oh, we've got this position.
We got the position. Kind of. Like
I guess he probably has a long think and resigns fairly soon, I suppose.
Right, but actually the rook should be on d7, so I just think this is where it is.
Yeah. Yes, and then
so this is the correct position with rook on d7, and a6 because the rook is on d7 and not on d6, and now rook d7 is on the board. So it's messed up. The DGT is messed up.
But it's going to be a win, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, you just come and scoop up some pawns. And should we take a look at Alexandra Prao?
Yeah.
See how this has evolved. We have bishop takes and queen c5. This line we discussed earlier. King h1, queen takes c5, and rook e1. So this is all exactly what we talked about. Queen f6, rook e6, queen g6. bishop g6, bishop f6. So this is all what we talked about. But instead of taking the knight, just rook c e1 and king to f8. So this is the current position, and White is spending some time, right? So he's just decided to capture on e8 after about 6 minutes. He spent 4 minutes on the last move, so he's being careful because he wants to convert this, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't want to go from the position you had before to...
She's done well, to be fair,
freeze.
to get to this. You know, White's still got to show some technique here.
I mean, this happened in her game yesterday where she was dead lost and then she managed to get an equal endgame and in time trouble didn't find the only move, which is, you know,
Yeah, I
time
mean,
trouble.
White's, I'm just trying to, I mean, I think the winning, well, White's not doing anything really sudden. It's just gradually improve your pieces. But at least there's nothing, you know, some endings, it's just a case of you just play 20 automatic moves and win. But at least here, it looks like there's still a lot of work for White to do. You know, the black rook can be reasonably active on c8, perhaps go to c5, and if I had this, I wouldn't be. I mean, I would be obviously improve my king, etc., and then decide what to do. But
the g3, her opponent doesn't look confident. I do have her camera up, and her opponent is, I don't know. He's doing that really annoying thing that your opponent does, you know, when they know they're winning and they start bobbing, you know? Yeah, he's doing that.
He was bobbing early on. I noticed that in the opening.
I was bobbing.
Yeah.
I hate when they bob.
Yeah.
Come on. What's with the bobbing? And Alex, because she's playing on increment, she's playing fast. She's got rook c8. And she doesn't look confident either because she's playing with a minute on the clock. So that's fair.
But I mean, she should be pleased that she's got to this, because the middle game, it looked like I just thought it was going to be all over, whereas this is still work for White.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And she's not down any pawns, which is quite crucial because, like, if she manages to trade all the pawns and, you know, maybe it's going to be a harder time.
I mean, I'm not saying White should do this, but I guess White can look at taking on f6 and going rook e6. I'm not sure I want to do that, but at least it's something to consider, just to win a pawn. But yeah, I don't feel you should, but it was an option, I would say.
So I think she should just be like automatically taking these pawns, right?
Yeah.
If it's an equal trade, you take the pawn.
Yeah, the G file's not a big deal for White. So.
Maybe if you had another piece.
I think I hadn't really seen D5. I was looking at B5, but thinking that wouldn't be enough. But yeah, okay. So yeah, if you've got an extra exchange, just keep it then.
I would love to see her swindle this into a draw.
I mean, maybe not even, you know, I feel like White's still got to prove something. You know, she doesn't necessarily even have to swindle. White has to prove something.
That's true. White has to work hard for it. And he only has 15 minutes. And she just has to make non-losing moves. Whereas White has to find a way to win. We could take a look maybe back at Bobby Cheng.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Because we had this interesting position. So actually rook c3 was played. This move that I said, if you ignored the attacking in the position, you can play it. This was played. And then this queen check is played to bring the queen back over.
Yeah,
into the light
I didn't
squares.
like the queen on a6 blockading. So.
Yeah, and now rook 8 to b2. And White's getting some activity actually. But I guess you can try to trade everything off. And this is exactly what we see. And now queen back on a6. Oh, and actually it's funny because we still have all the same stuff with h6 check, and now if you take and take, apparently I mean, I guess it's basically the same position, right? Like as before. I guess. Oh, there's no mate now.
The king's on h2, so is it
Right. So there's no mate.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually we have this position on the board where we just traded the rooks. What do you do here? Like, do you just play like rook b3 and try to win this? And I just don't like that you give this back. Queen b7, apparently the only move to retain some advantage.
Yeah,
And you're coming in to threaten taking everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's important you've deflected the queen on a5 is actually not great, is it? It's not attacking c4 or f2.
Mm-hmm. So
We need one, maybe.
Yeah, so let's say we did get this this trade. I mean, it's a real shame because you want to be able to take this pawn as black.
I think you just have to take on a5 and hope for the best, because otherwise queen b5 and you'll just get pushed back and lose.
Yeah, that's true. Queen b5 is too strong.
I think queen e7, you just try queen e1 and hope for the best. That's all you can do, I think.
Yeah, so queen e7, queen e1.
I'm not even analysing, I just know that's a queen, I just know you probably got to try it.
f2 is defended. Yeah, totally. If you don't go for this, then this looks bad now. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, I think you take on f6 first,
yeah,
don't you?
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
then I take on e4, but you're just going to end up with a d pawn, which is much faster.
Right.
Um,
Only 3 squares from promotion.
Yeah.
And h6 check is played! Oh, exciting! That's fun. Okay, cool. Shame it wasn't played like 2 turns ago where there was a fun checkmate.
So if king f7, I'm guessing queen g4 is just terminal, so we have to take on h6, I presume.
King f7, I think it's actually...
Oh, actually, queen g4 does hang f2. Oh, so.
Yeah, that's true, actually. So I think here you have to trade the rooks, otherwise you're in trouble. And if rook c2, then this is more annoying. It's actually quite challenging now. I guess rook b6, actually. Never mind.
Yeah, rook b6, just coming in. If queen c4, well, maybe rook b7, but yeah.
Yeah, this is mate because
I thought rook b7.
Queen coming in. Yeah.
And you're defending f2 still, so yeah, that's gone.
This is GG.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have king f7 and rook b3 on the board. This is the way. This is fun to see play out, especially because Bobby Cheng has low time, so we're going to see him playing his moves quite quickly, I think. I guess his opponent can spend as much time as he wants thinking here.
Yeah.
Maybe we check to see if Yang Fen is still going on. No, he's resigned. Makes sense.
Mm.
Resignation, and then Alexandra Prado.
Could we just quickly check Matthew Wadsworth? I don't know if he's still playing because he has all his norms, but he's trying to get to 2,500. So I haven't checked which games are still going on.
Looks like it's over, and he won.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
win over Daniel Fischer.
That's good. Yeah, because he needs about 10 more points to get to 2,500, and he's got all his norms. So
yes, yeah, he does.
Yet another of my 4NCL team.
We can also check Mr. Dodgy whilst we're at it.
Oh yes.
Oh no, wait, we can't. I guess because
he's still a rook up and no more moves.
The DGT. Oh no! The DGT border seems to have fixed itself. Oh,
Ooh.
good. Okay. So, where were we? We were here. Okay, so DGT board is fixed. Beautiful. So we have rook takes c4, d takes c4, bishop c5. This is what we talked about.
Yeah.
And rook to c8.
Yeah.
And now we just win a pawn.
Yeah.
Oh, this is nice. This is nice. And now rook d7 check is nice as well. And bishop to c2 is a very stylish move.
Mm.
Very active rook. So here apparently there is this f4, which is basically like winning.
F4, E4, E5, I guess. Or,
yeah.
Or even G4, G5. Yeah. It's just more of a direct attack than a sort of technique, I suppose.
But we have instead king f1 and bishop to c6.
We can't go rook c7 now because of bishop g2 check.
Yeah, exactly.
So the king on f1 is worse than on g1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with the king on g1, rook c7 would probably just tie him up completely.
Yeah. Bishop e8. Now we can still go for this e4 f4 kind of plan. But instead king e1. Okay, interesting.
Well, it should still be.
I want him to push his pawns. Come on, Mr. Dodgy, push your pawns. No! What a cowardly pawn push. Okay. Rook d5 and okay, I mean it's not a super easy position, I guess. e4 after e3.
And as often happens when they finally push the pawn, it's not the right moment.
Not the right time. Okay, this is where we are, and he has squandered his advantage. And the thing is, Lawrence, is I need Mr. Dodgy to win this game for my mental health, because Amelia and Mr. Dodgy and I have a group chat, and when any one of us is playing in a chess tournament, everyone has to wallow when somebody loses. And so I've been wallowing for a while now, because Mr. Dodgy unfortunately hasn't won a game yet this tournament. He's had 2 draws, 2 losses, and a bye. And so he's very unhappy.
I did see, I think he tweeted that he was heading towards 2,000. And then when I sort of thought about it, I thought, and not from the right direction. So, not what you want.
Exactly.
And I guess it's a sort of 2,000, it's a sort of, you definitely want to be on the right side of it. Dropping below seems, not what you want.
Yeah, he's like, he tried to play too civilized here with these king activation moves when he really should have just been going dodgy and playing f4, right?
Yes, play for an attack rather than just playing it as an endgame almost.
Exactly. So now it's a lot harder to get an advantage. But okay, he's got some chances apparently with this check, and now he can come in again. I mean, I'm not sure I understand why the checks are apparently so good when they are just letting the king into the game. You know?
Well, White should presumably be bringing his king up to e3 and d4.
Right, why not just king e2? But I don't know why. I guess engines in these endgames always just love checks anyway.
Yeah.
But king e2 makes sense to me. And now this rook is not really doing much because
Yeah, I don't know where we want.
really
I suppose we
attack
want it
anything.
on. Do we want it on b4? But then c3
Good,
is
he's
win.
played king e2.
Yeah, I don't know where we want the rook. I mean,
No.
okay, in an ideal world, we want it to be on d6, threatening to play rook d2. But yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It feels too slow to be going rook c6 to d6.
Well, it's an idea, right? Rook to d6, and then you can just take now, I guess.
Yeah. No, this is nothing, is it? So he hasn't really spoilt it. Then probably it's just a bit more work, I suppose.
I guess this is still possible if you're not careful. And now you kind of have to babysit your pawn here.
Yeah.
It's not as fun. But you're probably going to win this one.
Yeah.
Then.
You assume that black's weaknesses and the pawn less should be decisive.
So unfortunately, I've lost the player cameras for now. I know that the connection in the playing hall is not super stable. Why don't we go back and look at Bobby Cheng? I want to see how this f6 check went. Maybe cam 1 is working. No cams. Okay. So rook b3 and rook a2 was played. So exactly what we talked about. Trying not to trade the rooks. And now rook b6 with the tempo on the queen. Because what else are you really going to play here? Queen to c8. And now... Oh, okay, queen b3. I'm kind of surprised we didn't just grab this. Because we have direct threat, right? It's very forcing.
I think we're just playing for mate, I guess, pretty much.
With queen to b3? Yeah, I guess. Okay, so rook takes with check. King g1. And okay, sack the rook and trying to get some kind of perpetual, but it's not going to be there. The queen is guarding g3,
just king,
right?
King g1. King g1's good enough, isn't it? Yeah.
And there's no more checks. Yeah. So I don't have the cams, but if DGT is to believe, this is the position we have on the board. I'm very surprised that this is what black played. I don't know. I guess maybe there are no other options. Yeah, king g1 is played, king e8 is played, and now we have mate in 7.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if king e8 was starting to reset the pieces or if it's...
Well, apparently he hasn't resigned yet, so you got to look for the mate. I guess you start with looking at the checks, you bring the queen in. This is not the most efficient checkmate, apparently, but
it's what you should play, though, realistically. Queen d7
because
and
you just
a6.
come over here, right, and you get a new queen.
Just play a6 or take an a6.
Yeah, this is true. You're just going to get a new
queen.
queen.
Actually, if you want to, I mean, rook h8 to be cheeky, I suppose. Play rook h8 here, just to really rub it in.
Yeah, that's mean.
If you're not going to resign, I'm going to play rook h8
And yeah.
yeah. Oh.
So
So that
king e8.
from the black side, this game's quite frustrating because I thought they were comfortable, and then it all collapsed rather
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, it's surprising how weak their king was. It seems to be the recurring theme of the day is black not having a safe king.
But maybe I just sort of misunderstood the position because I thought after the capture on c5, I couldn't believe that black could be worse. But I'm just throwing a quick recap.
I'm not so sure why Bobby is spending his time thinking like, you know, all paths lead to mate.
Yeah.
You just give the checks, right?
I know a couple of people I know who are GMs that they said that when they play lower rated players who won't resign, they sometimes just sit there like in a position like this, and eventually the player will just have enough and think, okay, I'll resign. But I guess Bobby can't really do that with the minutes on his clock. So
No.
I suspect the game's, well, it must be over, surely.
It's possible. Let me see if we got cams back. No cams. I think maybe, I mean, we have had some DGT errors. We've had some cam transmission errors. It's possible the game's already ended.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think it ended because king to e8 has been removed from DGT
Yeah,
board.
so that was just...
This must just have been resignation here, which means that all of our top games are over. So I guess it's back to Mr. Dodgy, and we can also open Alexandra Prado, who's not over yet either. We've got Alex's cam still.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with how she sort of hung on in her position. I mean, even if White did give a bit of help, you know,
So, yeah, and actually White is quite badly misplaying this, apparently. The advantage is not anywhere near as big as it was before. And I would love to just play rook g1 and threaten to come in and start scooping things up, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only idea I saw for White, which White has just done, was trying to play a4, a5, and then create a weakness. But Black's position is so solid, isn't it? The bishop on f6 defends everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope she's played rook g1. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think really the thing is, right, is that these white rooks are not well coordinated.
I mean, a5 is the only real plan, and even then, maybe it's, I don't know.
I would want to play rook b1 here. So if a takes b, I guess you take, and then you hope that you can take here. I guess this is maybe a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's a shame that we stumbled on the right idea because...
Oh yeah, and this is actually what she's played. They have my position on the board. Okay, Alexandra and I are thinking on the same level. I should be thinking probably more though because I have the end. But yeah, I mean, this is the most human route, right? It makes a lot of sense. And here even, because we didn't have the king chase the rook or anything, we're actually trying to take with check. So
can we just go back a couple of moves? Because say before White played a4, I'm just wondering if we could have at least made that plan a bit harder.
Well, I guess you can put a rook up here and just stop anything from coming in.
So yeah, what were the last couple of moves around here?
Right, so we were around here with rook c5.
Yeah.
The king starts to come in. We're threatening the weak pawns. That's all we can do, really. And
yeah, black can't really do a lot in the meantime. Yeah.
yeah, and this is where we are. And now rook e3, which of course defends. So, hmm.
Yeah, I mean, white is an exchange up, so I mean, I suppose it shouldn't be a shock that
Yeah,
round away.
Of course. And
I mean, how bad is it here to
e2.
take on a5 and go bishop b4?
This is probably what she should have done, and then rook b2. But we have rook b2 first. No, I guess there's just you can. Oh, sorry. After
I was just trying to get bishop d4 in and hope for the best.
To get bishop d4 in and save the bishop d4 in and save the pawn. Yeah, I guess you would need to have your rook on the d file.
So rook b5, bishop d4. That was my idea, but you know, when white moves the rook to b5, you can then play bishop b4.
Yes, yeah, gotcha.
Which seems
so a takes and this kind of idea. This would be quite nice.
So maybe can white play rook e d3 first, and then rook b5 perhaps.
Well, actually, no one has taken on these pawns right now. Okay. Alex is making it very clear that she is just chasing.
Yeah.
And you can just step out of the way and let your rook defend everything as well. This is probably the best choice.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what? Actually, I think that with the time situation narrowing, I think this could become a draw because I'm not convinced this guy is going to outplay her in time trouble. And I think
yeah, it's just a case of if we can hold the b6 pawn, then
yeah,
because
that's true.
Until then, it looked like he was really struggling for an idea, but that at least he's now found a clear plan.
Well, if he finds king e4, then it's going to be much harder for Alex to try and keep that pawn because there'll be no bishop d4. But we'll see. Yeah,
I've not been able to work out where he's on when he sort of threatens to make a move. I'm not very good at judging what he's aiming for. It's sort of a lot of bobbing, then he reaches out, and then
loads of bobbing.
Now he's back to the bobbing.
We have a question from the chat. What does WCM by Alexandra's profile picture mean? It means Woman Candidate Master. So we have king e4. So this doesn't bode well for Alex. Maybe we'll go and see if Mr. Dodgy has made some progress. I'm kind of reticent to start looking at new games now because we don't have much time left.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's...
So he seems to have converted this into a winning position. Let's go back to wherever we were. I have no idea with all of these random moves that were played. Yeah, okay, I remember this, I remember this, I remember this. Okay, so here we were. King e3 is played. And now rook c4 and king d3, rook c6, king d4, very brave king. And king e3. I think it's really important that you can't let the rook come in because really you just can't give black counterplay in these positions. So a check, and now bishop e6, and we win a pawn. So this is it. And we have a passed a pawn now, which is very nice.
And
and
rook f3 check, king e2. Oh, and there's not even another check, is there? So yeah, this is.
Well, this is a check played here, but
Yeah, king e2. Black hasn't even. Okay, we can try that, but
yeah,
bishop
but
c4,
no, there's
king
no
e1,
progress.
and yeah.
We're here, and
So he's going to be much happier in the chat then when.
yeah, rook takes c3. I mean, here this is just going to be winning, right? So rook c4, you hold everything together, you bring the king up, you maybe try and grab this if you can, and you have 4 pawns to none. This is my hope.
And the c3 pawn has been no threat at all, has it? The bishop on c2 just controls it completely.
Yeah. So I'm curious that
yeah, you can defend that.
That
Or
it's
even
just
probably
allowed the rook a4.
King e3 and yeah.
Yeah, I guess just king
I suppose
e3 and
king
you get
e3,
to...
rook a3. Oh, but you're defending f2, so yeah, just king e3, king f4. Too many weaknesses.
This is very nice, yeah, and Mr. Dodgy should go on to win this game comfortably. Alexandra Prado, we've got some developments. We finally got a takes b6, a takes b6, rook b5 on the board, and rook d2, rook d3, rook e2 check. I mean, she's going to try to get him down, I think, to under a minute on the clock, and she's going to try to get him to blunder in time trouble or to flag. This is her best hope. And I mean, if he starts to repeat, then...
Oh, and yeah, rook b6, bishop d4. Yeah, that's the idea. But rook d3 is good. Where's this king going? Just to f.
Yeah, rook d2.
D2,
of
yeah.
course, bishop to d4 is would be beautiful. I would be thrilled if this happened for Alexandra. You would feel you would feel very lucky if that happened. But he's well aware of this threat, which is why he did not allow it the last turn. And so here, I guess you just you don't have to repeat. You can put your rook somewhere else maybe, and just step out of this. But I guess then you do allow her to keep the pawn. But then I guess b4 is coming, right?
I'm just so impressed she's got this far, you know, and...
Okay, and rook d5 is played. She's really managed to hold extremely well. She's very resilient. She doesn't seem to give up easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important quality for sure.
Yeah, if you want to do well in chess. Mr. Dodgy. Oh, we've got quite a development here. And this is our current position. I mean, this is just winning. Why has his opponent not resigned here? This is, I mean, it's a very nice position. I don't see how this ever becomes a draw unless White loses their rook.
So Bobby's going to be half clear, and then there's, I don't know, about half a dozen people maybe on.
Yeah, so let's take a look. So standings.
2, 3.
Bobby Cheng on 5.5. And then we've got Vojtech, Plat, Stanley, Matthew Wadsworth, Boris, all on 5. And then we've got Ameet, Marco, Sebastian, and Ivan, Maciej, all on 4.5. So we haven't looked at all of these people's games.
I mean, it's going to be difficult for players to get norms because looking at quite a few of them, like Stanley, he's only played 2 titled players, and the first 3 were all under 2000. So
that's tough.
It's still possible, but you're relying on getting all the right sort of titled players.
Yeah, and I was very surprised because, for example, Mr. Dodgy's opponent today was under 1800, right? He was like 1746, and I kind of thought that the master section would be, if not 2000 plus, like 1900 plus. Or this is quite common for.
So looking at Stanley, by drawing in round 1, it just makes it that much harder because he had to play 2 more 1900s. And then even in round 5, he played a 2181. So yeah, he's just got to hope. If he doesn't lose, then hopefully he'll get 3 title players. But I guess the average is still going to be problematic. But okay, he's playing well, he's improving, and the norms will come.
And I guess this is a problem with playing open events, is you really don't have control over your average.
And Maciej as well. Maybe Maciej. I can't remember. I should know because he's in my 4NCL team. I can't remember if Maciej has already got his 3rd IM norm or not. But okay, he's another possibility, but he's only played 2 titles.
This is huge. Alexandra's opponent has blundered with rook b5, and now after rook d2, there will be threefold repetition. This is the 3rd time this position has appeared, right? Not? Was it not?
Presumably not, from where the evaluation is, because it would pick up, wouldn't it, if it was threefold?
Right, but it did for a moment here. Like here it's 0-0 with rook d2.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it says back to +4, but hold on, let me look at the rook d2. We had rook d2, rook d3. And then we had rook e2. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
So move 50, rook d2. Got that position twice.
Either way, they both missed it, even if it was, but it might just have been twofold.
Yeah, move 50, 52 and 54 position is exactly the same.
Let's move 50, 52, and 54. Yeah, so I was right. There is the threefold repetition. Oh, I'm devastated she missed it. So
why isn't the engine like just dropping to equal at that point?
Well, it should have been. After rook b5, it does drop to equal.
Okay, my suspicious site isn't doing that.
Oh, yeah, after rook b5 it does, but then after rook d2 it doesn't, and then but they played on.
Well, the player has to claim. I mean, sadly it's not up to the arbiter to jump in. So you have to. She had to write the move down, not play a 54. Write it down, call the arbiter.
She's going to be devastated, I think, if she doesn't get this draw. But now he's playing under a minute, so it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, now I think it's becoming less and less likely because you are going to lose the b pawn, right?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that's definitely right, isn't it? Move 54.
Yeah, it was move 50, 52, and 54 are all the same position.
And it's not like, I can understand you sometimes miss it if it was like move 40, move 48, move 56. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's frustrating. Mm.
I mean, she's still making the right threats and the right moves, and her opponent is not confident. I don't think he knows what to do to convert this. He does. There's some like part of him where he's like, what if it is a draw? And like he knows it shouldn't be, but he's afraid. I think of allowing this.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my question for you. If the threefold appeared, but you only noticed later, you can't go back and claim it, right?
No, once you've replied to the move, once you played rook d2, she loses the option to claim. So
right. And I guess okay, so now rook e2, and we're going to get a repetition of moves.
Yeah, at least he's moved his king off e4, so there's new repetitions.
She didn't call the arbiter. Maybe not, she's not sure how to do it. This is repetition. This is repetition. Call the arbiter. You're doing it. She's doing it. Yeah, she's telling him.
Oh, maybe.
Repetition. Yes! Yes! Yeah, this position has repeated. And the arbiter was right there. Oh, that's crazy. She's so resilient. Wow. I mean, this is what happens, right, when your opponent doesn't know how to convert the position.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so upset. I feel kind of bad, but...
Oh, I'm not seeing those pictures.
Yeah, and I've got this on the DGT. This game ended in a draw because the same position was repeated 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, okay, she's not going to be fully satisfied because it's a draw versus a low-rated
player.
But
it's a fantastic save because you think back to how when White went e5, how awful that position was.
Oh, this is amazing. This is great. This is a great way to end the commentary for the day. Well done to Alexandra for saving this draw. Oh, I was worried after she didn't claim the first one, but this is great. So, I mean, all of our games are over now, so I'm going to be ending the commentary. Lawrence, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what's been going on with my camera, given it was fine. Well, maybe it's just
fine. It's not a big deal.
It's maybe a good thing for chat that they didn't have to see me in full for the whole 2 hours.
No, that's not the case. We were here for your chess wisdom anyway. I think most people are watching the chessboard. We can raid. I think Anna Maya. She's celebrating 5 years on Twitch.
Oh yeah, she's doing her. Is she still on?
Yes, she is. And for those of you who are watching in the auditorium or are watching on YouTube, thank you for joining today. We are going to be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. UK time for another round of the Isle of Wight Masters. And we have 2 more rounds of commentary. So actually there's 3 more rounds of the tournament, but we're only commentating 2 of those rounds because we're only doing 1 round a day. So I hope to see you guys in the rest of the streams. If not, I hope you enjoyed. We will have Diana coming back tomorrow, and we'll have Ketty coming back on Sunday. So it's going to be good.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been good to follow the games, and
no, thank you so much for joining. I really, really appreciate you giving up your time to do this.
No, it's been good. I mean, I'd have been watching the games anyway, so.
Perfect. Oh, okay, guys. I'll leave you here. I'm gonna end the stream, but we can just see a final shot of Alexandra and her opponent. It seems like the arbiter's gonna go check something, or I don't know, maybe some dispute, but it's a very clear claim of a draw. So I'm very happy for her for this result. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. CET.